Hello. Hello.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yeah, good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Attaru sir, I am audible?
Yeah, you are too much audible.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. দেখুন
ମାନେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଏଟାକୁ ଏଠି କ୍ଲିୟର ଦେଖିବେ।
Good morning. Sir, video is not visible.
वीडियो ऑन करें सर, वीडियो ऑन करें।
ଜୟ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ। ଭେରି ଗୁଡ୍ ମର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ। Very good morning to our chief guest, Dr. Atun Mohapatra. Very good morning to our chief speaker, Sir Dr. Pradhan sir. Very good morning to our speaker, Dr. Jaleswar. Very good morning to our speaker, Sir Dr. Shivasankar Mahanti. Very good morning, our chief speaker, Dr. Shamsundar Padmadi. Sir,
Very good morning.
our chief speaker, Dr. Kamalakanta sir. Very good morning, our chief speaker, Madam Jasna Ghosh. Very good morning to all our participants for online national organization
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you. First of all, I congratulate the Department of Political Science for organizing a beautiful national level webinar with the current topic COVID-19 and India's response. On behalf of our college, I welcome to our chief guest, esteemed Dr. Atan Mahapatra, Sir, Associate Professor, Central for Diaspora Studies, Central University, Gujarat. And I am also welcome Dr. Ramkrishna Pradhan, Assistant Professor, Political Science from FM University, Dr. Rajasri Dutta, Assistant Professor, Political Science from FM University, Dr. Shiv Shankar Mohanty, Assistant Professor, Center for Diaspora Studies, Central University, Gujarat, Professor Dr. Shamsundar Wagmore, Sarada College, Maharashtra, Dr. Kamalakanta Das, Assistant Professor, University Cuttack, and I also, on behalf of our college, welcome to all participants on this webinar. Congratulations to everybody. Really, this is a pleasure on my part to introduce the resource person on this webinar. Welcome to all of you. This is altogether a new technique which has been adopted due to corona pandemic. This will be helpful for our students. And our college, Jagannath Degree College, Odisha, has started in 1993. Late Dr. Atul Chandra Patra was a kind-hearted person, donated land to the college for improved education in our locality. Former ex-MLA Jaleswar, Honorable Minister Jagannath Mohanty was supported for the construction of building and permission to smooth running of the college. Our college has 7 departments and political science one among them, which was started in 204 with 16 seats only, and now it has 40 seats from 2014. Now, this department organized several programs like seminar, online quiz, etc. And also department observed some national and international day like International Democracy Day, National Integrity Day, National Construction Day, Constitution Day, National Votes Day, etc. Once again, I welcome to all of you of this webinar, and I wish today that the topic of this webinar helps to you for career building. Once again, I thank to all organized committee members and wish you a successful webinar. Thank you.
Most welcome. Today's organized by Jagannath Degree College, Jaleswar on the theme COVID-19 and India's response. At the outset, we collect it's pleasure to my to introduce the person, esteemed Madam Assistant Principal of this college to answer of organizing. I would bring you to the importance to attend GH of the website from the university. It is not but Dr. Otton, Associate Professor and Chairman for College, Central University of Gujarat. His career as research assistant, Department of Communication Research, IIMC, New Delhi, rightly organizing Manav Rachana International University, Faridabad, and as assistant professor from 2013, then become the director communication cell in MS University, Baroda from 2013 to 2017, and presently working as associate professor and chairperson in Center for Studies and Research in Diaspora University, Gujarat. Lots of and regards to Dr. Mahapatra on behalf of our college for joining us. Further, I have immense pleasure to introduce the eminent speakers of today's session who have been online with us to deliver their valuable opinion with us to the relevant topic and whom we are waiting eagerly to listen to their Dr. R.K. Pradhan, Assistant Professor, Political Science, FM University, Jaleswar. Dr. Rajashree Datta, Assistant Professor, Political Science, FM University. Dr. Shivshankar Mohanty, Assistant Professor, Center for Diaspora Studies, Central University, Gujarat. Dr. Samsundar Wagmare, Professor of Public Administration, Sarada College of Maharashtra. Dr. Kamalakanto Das, Assistant Professor of Public Policy Management, Sri University, Cuttack. Last but not least, my deep sense of appreciation goes to the convener, Mr. Ranjit Kumar Behera, Lecturer in Political Science, and Organizing Secretary, Mr. Shravan Kumar Nath, and all members of the organizing college and the learned participants remain present in the webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you. Am I audible? Well, am I audible? I would request rest of the participants to please mute their mic. By that, the disturbances would be very much less. At the outset, good morning to all of you. And Jai Jagannath Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhava Tume. So, welcome. It's a very pleasant weather. Maybe in Gujarat also it's little souring. And I hope you notice also it must be souring, but it seems to be pleasing outside. Anyway, so respected Principal Madam, Dr. Jyotsna Ghosh, my colleague Dr. Ramkrishna Pradhan of FM University Jaleswar, Dr. Shiv Shankar Mohanty from my department, Central University of Gujarat, Dr. Rajeshri Datta of FM University, Dr. Sham Sundar from Maharashtra, and the convener of this national webinar, Ranjit Behra, and the organizing secretary, Mr. Shravan Nath, and others like Saroj Mohanty, Ashok Rath, Nishal Ghadai, and all the participants, students, and other faculty members. So first of all, I say Kem Cho, Kasa Ais in Marathi, Keman Achen, Manla, Kemiti Achanti, Abarmananku Samastu Gumad Namaskar, and Hardik Subkamna. Today I feel homely as I am directly connected to my home state, and that too addressing the participants of Jagannath Degree College, located close to my neighboring native district of Mayurbhanj. I hail from Baripada, and it is a pleasure to address and be with all the participants of Jagannath College located in Jaleswar. To begin with, as the topic of the day is India's response to COVID-19, let me give you factual data. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm continuing. To begin with, as the topic of the day is India's response to COVID-19, let me give a factual data initially that we are now fighting Corona at its peak. And soon we may get relief. As of today, more than 35 lakhs have been infected, and it might go beyond few lakhs more in the coming future. It's not that easy to get away with this virus unless and until the vaccine and the medicines are not invented or not in place. It would have been touched more than a crow by now. It's very important to understand. The response can be understood in the light of the velocity and its fertileness and its nature of spread. It would have been touched by this time more than 1 crore. But the present government had responded very timely and early. Anticipating the nature and velocity of the pandemic, India had started its preparation in the month of January 2020. Subsequently, it turned out to be a complete lockdown in the month of March 2020. It's true that most of us had never experienced the lockdown earlier, but accepted it unconditionally to combat the spread of most dreaded pandemic of the millennium. The virus, of course, admit, transported from China, had destabilized the world in many aspects. However, unsuccessful attempts through this virus to destabilize India remained a dream of China. I would say rather it has helped India to step ahead in its global leadership and got recognition for the same. Now, if we see how India has responded to this challenge of COVID-19, it will not be exaggerated to say that we live in a new India. India that has the capacity to address any challenges and issues both internally as well as externally. A strong, vibrant India, it can address the challenges of national security, health, social problems, or whatever the problems comes to us. I'm sure my other panelists will talk on the issues, varieties of issues like international migration, diaspora, economic and health issues and challenges, evacuation of standard Indian immigrants, and other socio-political cultural issues related to COVID-19. I will try to discuss one less covered, but it is very important. How during the pandemic, the inter-state relations has been strengthened. And since it is being organized by the Political Science Department of Jagannath Degree College, I think relevance is quite important as well. Now, if you see the most important political and constitutional development during COVID-19, you may find the new trend of inter-state relationships has emerged in India, which perhaps was lacking for many decades, years in past few decades. We know the division of powers in our constitution are very clear. As we know, public health, sanitation, hospitals, dispensaries, these sectors come under within the purview of state's domain. Also, it is mentioned that panchayats and nagarpalikas in maintaining health and sanitations, including hospitals, primary health centers, and dispensaries, are again decentralized to the local level. From the beginning, center has been predominantly involved in management of COVID-19 for a better center-state coordinations, and this is visible in the frequent medical team visit to Maharashtra and other parts of the states for policy formulations and implementations in health services to tackle the COVID-19 challenges. It's quite clear, it's quite visible that during this corona initial phase, even till today also, when the pandemic was geared up to spread, medical teams from the government initiatives was sent across various states to respond, where the state was much more faster. You know, Indian Constitution is federal in nature and unitary in spirit. We have been taught the same in Indian constitutions, being a political science student, all of us are studying. But we have seen during the corona crisis, Indian spirit is more active. We try to restore the symbiotic relationship of the center-state relations. The center-state approach to deal with, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic. Our constitution, the basis of distribution of powers between union and state is that only those powers which are concerned with the regulation of local problems are states, whereas the residue, especially those which tend to maintain economic activities, industrial and commercial activities, are rested with the union. And there is, of course, a need for effective coordination between the center and states. Between the states themselves, it's very important to understand not only the center state, but also within the states. Within one state with other states. What's important? Because periodic monitoring, periodic regulate the movement of the people, the goods, and the daily use products from one place to another, from one state to another, from center to states. And the coordinated approach was very much needed, and it has been addressed. Coming to the leadership of the aspect of this corona, where the center-state relationship has been quite visible. Prime Minister Modi has acted as a visionary leader who had well understood that India's success in defeating COVID-19 lies upon the center-state collaborations. I say this because the popular Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, himself also served as Chief Minister of Gujarat more than 12 years. And he has gone through the same such crisis, whether it is earthquake or other crisis, and explains the need of central intervention. And Prime Minister Modi, who often believes and also talks about cooperative federalism, accordingly, he has tried to deliver many things during this COVID-19 pandemic. In recent meeting also we have seen he has addressed many times in NITI Aayog, in the Council of Ministers, how best the cooperative federalism can be practiced in consultation with the various states and the stakeholders. So we have seen the periodic minutes, periodic meetings with the chief ministers, with the bureaucrats, with the health ministers of the country, and it's a really amazing that this kind of interventions in consultation with the states and the states chief ministers was always appreciable. True that it is staying the pandemic fast. Quicker, adequate funds and autonomy for effectively tackling the crisis. And center at the same time to treat the states as equals and strengthen their capabilities instead of increasing their dependence upon itself. What I mean is, states are the first to respond to any case of pandemic. But the center's role is to see all states are equals, and we'll see in coming few minutes that how it treated as all states have been treated as equals. Now, if you look at the pandemic and its nature, we will see that all states have responded very effectively. And all states have been extended their support and cooperation for an effective and comprehensive plan of central government to stop the corona and spread of corona pandemic. Now, areas where we see the central scientific relationship has been strengthened. Let us understand the communication aspect of uh, dissemination of information, centrally loaded informations, how effectively it was disseminated, streamlining and coordinating and messages from a national level platform to the local government and small communities has helped immensely to minimize conflicting informations and conditions. We have seen whatever the guidelines have delivered, it has been immediately communicated to the states through various agencies. Similarly, we have seen the effective campaigns in both media, social media, as well as through televisions, channels. Almost all stakeholders are active. And there's not only the central government I'm talking about, but also all the media platforms, whether it is a government owned or is a private owned, they extended their full communication disseminations system on a regular basis. And the well-coordinated public information campaigns, which we have seen, have provided timely to act against this kind of corona, to protect against the corona pandemic, coronavirus, whether to put masks, whether to maintain the social distancing, whether to keep busy at home, whatever the information and the guidelines is to be disseminated, it has been disseminated effectively from a center to state, from the state to the community level, and within the states as well. Next, the issue of the aspect of economy. Some people they argue that India's response to COVID-19 pandemic has shifted the balance of its federal structure. The pandemic has enabled the central government to implement far-reaching reforms in areas such as agriculture, which is traditionally considered to be the domain of the states. If you look at the central list and state list, and there are some concurrent list also. But I believe this was the need, and the states have welcomed such kind of reforms during this pandemic. Then there are certain economic reforms which many states have welcomed as well. Center and states have realized that due to periodic lockdown, GST and other revenue sources of the states have decreased drastically, and it requires central assistance. Because the movement was zero, economic activity was zero, the naturally the revenue and the collection of revenue was also, to some extent, it was drastically influenced, it was drastically impacted. One such measure has been very important, a conditional input center has given to borrowing limits of the states. It has been increased by the central government to enhance the borrowing limit of the state government. Earlier it was 3% to 5% with some condition, but only first 0.5 center are unconditional because the revenue collection was zero. Then 1% was permitted if the borrowing is linked to specific reforms such as debt sustainability, job creation, power sector reforms, and urban development. And remaining 0.5% has been permitted only if the states can be permitted if the states if achieve key milestone in each area. In these areas, if they achieve, then the 0.5 borrowing percent can be increased. So this is very important to understand that this conditional and unconditional borrowing capacity has been enhanced. And similarly, the agriculture reform, which is a state matter state subject in India, and states decide the production and distribution system, including the market regulation. The reforms on the marketing system for the effectiveness as well as accepted by which has been accepted by all states. There are a few states like which biased against it, but remaining most of the states have accepted such kind of reforms and agreed to such kind of policies. When these both measures, if you look at the both measures, the increased rates and the agriculture reforms, these are the examples of center-state coordination and the symbiotic relations which got strengthened during this pandemic. Besides, we have seen also Manrega, which has been empowered. If you try to recall, in the month of May, Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman has come up with a comprehensive package guided and directed by none other than our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Manrega has been empowered. It has been augmented with a very substantial amount of fund just to address the economic issues and challenges of the poor, the downtrodden poor, and the migrant workers. Similarly, we have seen that in the economic package, skill development and vocational skill enhancement that has been emphasized also in this economic package by the Finance Minister. So the economic angle, you see, there is a coordinated approach, coordinated effort, which Modi believes it as a cooperative federalism. It has been reflected in it. Similarly, you look at the political aspect. Initial stage of the COVID-19 response seemed to be the unitary, but a little more unitary, due to central government implementation of national lockdown, using its powers under the central disaster management law. And Home Minister also issued extensive guidelines to states for controlling the pandemic. And there are also on the basis of some more specific law, like Epidemic Disease Act 1897 or 98, 97 perhaps. So, and if one recalls, one would find PM Modi has held several meetings with the CMs and not only taken the stock of the situation, but also assured necessary support and assistance from the center. Such meetings held at ministerial level, particularly central cabinet health ministers and the health ministers and the chief secretaries of the state. And also we have seen the state governments requested, subsequently we have seen, immediately after the first few phases of national lockdown, we have seen some state governments requested the central government continue with this administration of lockdown during its initial and subsequent phases. Why? Because the pandemic was not spread at once. It spread from one state. When one state was geared up, it transported to another state. Initially, we have seen in Odisha, take up the example of the Odisha. We have seen the cases were very less. Though the state government has taken extensive measures to stop it, but initially the cases were very less. And we know the reason how it has been transported to Odisha, Odisha, particularly the contiguous, because it has been transported from the contiguous states. And similar nature also is evident in other states also. Hence, the subsequent phase states started demanding for such kind of administration lockdown. We see the subsequent states where, after this national lockdown is over, states have been given autonomy to decide on the extension of lockdown based on their economic, social, and other activities. And gradually, public transport systems among the states were left with the decision of the concerning state. One state is to decide whether the other state, the transport system of the within the state, inter-states can be operational or it can be stopped for a few days, a few couple of weeks. Some central services is banking, telephone, and other communications from the central services I'm particularly talking about, were remained operational with social distancing norms throughout the lockdown. Prime Minister Modi has a unique background. No other Indian Prime Minister has served as the Chief Minister, as I said earlier. 12 years consecutively taken this responsibility of Prime Minister, before taking the responsibility of Prime Minister. This gives him a different perspective to governance. What I felt, I understand. He understands the capacity of his capacity of understanding the centrality, importance, and needs of the states, where most decisions and schemes of the governments are implemented, coupled with micro policy outlook of being at the apex and at the center. Modi brought this understanding the Niti Governing Council meeting, and he emphasized the spirit of cooperative federalism time and again. And this shows the leadership's concern for tackle the issues. Now, coming to the migration part, which is a very important aspect of COVID-19, and it's where we have seen center situation, how this has worked effectively. I'm talking about in a very positive way, how effectiveness. Many people have seen some criticism, I have seen some loophole, some failure in just tackling the issues. I'm particularly emphasizing the positive aspects. India has a migration issue both internal as well as external migrants. During this lockdown, many internal migrants workers were trapped in various states. As we know, in Odisha, also many of the migrant workers, they often travel from the native place to Gujarat, to Maharashtra, to other places of Odisha, also Haryana, Delhi, Gurgaon, and other places also. And they got trapped because of this lockdown. But the coordination in the center state is well visible in evacuating the migrants by providing massive trains, and also we have seen many states have coordinated among themselves to evacuate the stranded migrants workers by providing bus facilities and also subsequently arranging them good quarantine facilities. This is very important to understand, not only the center, but within the states also, the coordinated effort to tackle the issue, particularly evacuating and giving them or putting them in a quarantine center is very important. And it has been successfully done. So far, it's been continuing, I think, in many states. I'd like to add one more incident where I think all of us know. Our Chief Minister, Mr. Naveen Patnaik, who is of course another visionary leader who has been ruling the state for many years and continue to lead. He called up Modi at 12 midnight, for providing 10 facilities to migrants workers. And the Prime Minister responded and provided the required numbers of 10. This shows the concern, both at center as well as at the state level. And second migration issue, whereby some economic angle is also related. Central governments not only facilitated the trains, but also the charge of the fare has been typically reduced to only 15% share of the state government. Remaining percent shares was to be borne by the center, railway department. So this is massive evacuations we have seen is very important. That's the economic relief not only to the migrant workers but also to the states. Similarly, if you see, I think my other panelists will see the evacuation of the stranded citizens, Indian immigrants across the world, both through land route, through air route, and through water route. And initially, there were some subsidized rates also, the fare were also given to, or also provided to the stranded citizens of Indian migrants across the world in various places. So this coordinated approach between the center and the state is very much visible as Muslim is concerned. Coming to the health issue, this is perhaps the key of all aspects because it directly has a link to the coronavirus virus as a killer to health sector. As far as health sector is concerned, I think which is a prime area of cooperative federalism, which I believe, where we have seen regular intervention and assistance from the center as far as health issue is concerned. We have seen massive testing kit have been provided, supplied to the states as far as their requirement. Massive prevention kit, protective kit has been for the paramedical staff and the doctors have been provided. Supply of generic medicines, including antibiotic and life-saving drugs, has been ensured by the central government. Central government has ordered a sizable number, good number of ventilator, and perhaps to be distributed. I don't know whether it has been distributed or maybe in the pipeline to be distributed among the states as per the demand and requirements. Then the use of railway coaches as the medical emergencies. If we fall short of bed hospitals, COVID hospitals, then the railway coaches across the country has been earmarked. In many coaches in many railway stations have been earmarked, and many coaches have been upgraded to COVID hospitals, COVID hospitals. So this is very important to understand how the response has been so amazing and so important. Now, as a result, what we see, India is now the leading in preparing the vaccine. Preparing this manufacturer of the preventive kit for paramedical staff, and perhaps the second largest manufacturer in this world. And also at the same time, India's response to COVID-19 not only to protect, prevent, but also as far as curative is concerned, and in case of vaccine and medicine, the vaccine is perhaps on the pipeline. And see the global role of India. India, perhaps, if I'm not wrong, in the third human trial stage of COVID-19 vaccine, and Indian scientists are working at the same time 3 vaccines. And one vaccine which has been also designed and which has been invented in Oxford, that is a production center is also located in India, which has ensured that in the first months, 4 millions of I think 4 millions should be in a month, 2 millions, and subsequently 4 billions can be produced if it is required. So, as far as health is concerned, there are other issues also. The effectiveness is also seen through the timely intervention of Ayush Mantralaya and the mobile app of Arogya Setu. And if you remember when I was talking about in the communication, through this Arogya Setu, all required communications guidelines have been communicated to Arogya Setu. Until that, it's working a huge response they have seen through this through this Arogya Setu, which is perhaps innovative and also a very effective communication tools for. I think as a communication researcher also, I think we call it as a very instrumental role in communication, health communication area. Not only within the country as far as and India's response to COVID is concerned, but also at the same being a aspiring global leader, India has also responded the call for supplying the required medicine initial stage to be administered for COVID-19 patients. If you remember, which is very quite phenomenal in Indian malaria, the chloroquine drugs, the demand which was in tons has been ensured and has been supplied by India to other rest of the world. So in addition to this, this effect, the pandemic has witnessed a new phase of federal relations, which Prime Minister Modi often reiterates as cooperative federalism plus states accepted and coordinated with center in such a manner which has not happened in the last few decades. Hence, I believe this kind of coordinated relationship with center state in this pandemic is perhaps a new beginning for future kind of issues in terms of center state relationship will take up other challenges also. अंत में मैं एक चीज कहना चाहूंगा क्योंकि समय की मर्यादा है, मुझे 11:30 बजे भी जाना है, कि हम सब जानते हैं किसी भी उपलब्धि जो होता है ये सामान्य प्रक्रिया से नहीं होता है। कारण प्रत्येक उपलब्धियों के पीछे हम अगर देखें और वो उपलब्धियां हमें मिलती है जब परिस्थिति प्रतिकूल या विपरीत हो, और इस प्रतिकूल विपरीत परिस्थिति की अंतर्गत हमने इस कोरोना काल को अगर हम विपरीत या प्रतिकूल परिस्थिति माने, इस विपरीत परिस्थिति में भी भारत को एक बहुत बड़ा उपलब्धि हासिल हुई है। खास करके मैं 3 बिंदुओं पर आखिरी मिनट में इसको समझने की कोशिश करूंगा। एक कोरोना हमने सिखाया कि डिजिटल, जो मोदी जी ने डिजिटल कैंपेन की शुरुआत की थी, आज घर घर में हम देखेंगे कोरोना ने हमें डिजिटलाइज, हमें टेक्नो से भी बना दिया। चाहे बच्चे क्लास करें, चाहे हम एक दूसरे से कम्युनिकेट करें, चाहे हम इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज करें, चाहे कुछ भी करें, कहीं ना कहीं एक बड़ा समूह की, बड़ा तबके के लोग, एक वर्ग इस कोरोना महाकाल में डिजिटल इंडिया की तरफ देखने लगे और उसको अपनाने लगे। दूसरा जो एक महत्वपूर्ण चीज सामने आया है, उपलब्धि आया है, वो है आत्मनिर्भर भारत। इस कोरोना में हमें आत्मनिर्भर बनाने का प्रयास में हमें एक तरह से इसको सक्षम बनाने के प्रयास किए। क्या सक्षम बना? इससे पहले भी हम आत्मनिर्भर थे लेकिन दिखता नहीं था। अभी हम आत्मनिर्भर बनेंगे, खुद सेल्फ रिलायंट बनेंगे, अपने प्रोडक्शन खुद करेंगे, किसी पे निर्भर कम होंगे, चाहे वो देश के राज्य स्तर पर हो, देश के स्तर पर हो, या अपने छोटे से कम्युनिटी के स्तर पर हो। एक सबसे बड़ा पहल जो शुरुआत हुई इस आत्मनिर्भर भारत के अंतर्गत। तीसरा जो मैं मानता हूं जो इस कोरोना काल में हमें मिला है उपलब्धि, वो है नया शिक्षा नीति 2020। कुछ लोग कहते हैं वो 34 साल की बाद आया है, पर मैं इसको 34 साल नहीं मानता हूं। मैं उसको 185 वर्ष की गुलामी से एक तरह से मुक्त या आजाद मानता हूं। जो नया शिक्षा नीति आया है इसमें भी आत्मनिर्भर है और इसमें भी भारतीय शिक्षा पद्धति जैसे होना चाहिए वो भी हमें मिलने की संभावना है। और आने वाले दिनों में इसका असर आत्मनिर्भर भारत, डिजिटल इंडिया और नया शिक्षा नीति, तीनों का असर हमें जरूर देखने के लिए मिलेगा। तो मैं मानता हूं कि as India is growing and has responded well in the beginning of the new India, as it's claimed by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in future days we will see that India is growing and will certainly occupy a global place and leadership. So these words, I think for my time permits, because it's approaching 11:30, so I have to go for another meeting. And I think it's good to see all of you here, because I get connected to my own native state and the lane. Perhaps I'm very close to Jagannath. Just close to Jaleswar. And with these, I think words, I think मैं अपनी बातों को समाप्त करना चाहूंगा। और बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हम जोशना मैडम और जितने भी ऑर्गेनाइजर, खासकर रंजीत बेहरा जो कन्वीनर है। और मैं जानता हूं आने वाले ये बहुत लाभदायक होगा ये वेबिनार, नेशनल वेबिनार। आप इस तरह से निरंतर इस प्रकार की वेबिनार करते रहें और विचार मंथन चिंतन करते रहें। और ये मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि जब सुदूर एक दूर में एक कस्बा स्थान में, कस्बा जैसे एक रूरल एरियाज में स्थित कॉलेज जगन्नाथ डिग्री कॉलेज को भी ये इस डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म को इस्तेमाल करके कोरोना को संदर्भ में इसको डिस्कोर्स एक चर्चा करने की प्रयास की है। ये बहुत बहुत आपके लिए बहुत बहुत सराहनीय है। मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि इस प्रकार की आप आने वाले समय भी और भी वेबिनार करते रहे और इस प्रकार की इश्यूज पर डिस्कस करें और अपनी स्टूडेंट अपनी फैकल्टी को आप इस प्रकार से लाभान्वित करते रहे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद के साथ मैं पुनः आपसे विदाई लेता हूँ और मेरी बात को विराम देता हूँ। खूब आभार और आपको नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।
kalau kata sih kan akhirnya kan apa tahu knowledge lo boleh
Thank you. Am I audible? Okay. So very good morning to all of you. Respected this webinar, Dr. Asanu Mahapatra. Esteemed panelists of this webinar, Dr. R.K. Pradhan, Dr. Shiv Shankar Mahanti, Dr. Shanta Agmera, Dr. Kamal Kanta Das, respected Principal Madam, faculty of the college, dear participants. First of all, I would like to thank Principal Madam and the entire fraternity of the college, especially the Department of Political Science, for giving me this opportunity to share some relating to this special webinar on COVID. Basically, the area which I will be focusing on is entitled as From Janta Curfew to Atmanirbhar and Indian Way. In this topic, I see a journey, and let me take you to a journey where the origin is Janta Curfew, some sort of refreshment in the form of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and decision still reached. Can I have the PPT? Okay. So by the time they said the PPT, let me provide you a brief sketch about COVID-19. We all are aware about COVID-19, but summing it up, we can say that it is quite obvious that natural calamities impair the growth of an economy, making it imperative to take measures to mitigate losses. So as we know, in 2019, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention started monitoring the outbreak of novel coronavirus, which is popularly or which causes respiratory illness, now known as COVID-19. So therefore, since then, the virus has spread to other countries, both in and outside Asia, leading the World Health Organization to declare this as a pandemic. Now there is a study which came up in Medical News Today 2020, I think in the month of June, that the scientists have now replicated the virus. Social distancing and targeted quarantine measures can succeed only. The focus is it can succeed only if implemented wherever the virus is spread. World Health Organization chief said that new coronavirus has been declared as a global emergency. Now the outbreak continues to spread outside China, at a rampant growth. We all know this. The main reason for declaring this global emergency is not what is happening in China, but what is happening in other countries. And let me tell you, the concern is that the virus has scattered its wing to countries with weaker health system. So this was a study which came up in medical news today. And turning towards the initiative undertaken by the government of India, let us begin from Janata Curfew. So the decision that Prime Minister of India took on March 24, 2020 to impose a total lockdown in the country will be regarded as one of the most important prime ministerial acts since independence. Why? Because never before in human history have a billion plus people been forced to confine themselves to their homes. Not even in China, where the coronavirus made its first appearance, did the leadership resort to such a drastic countrywide or wide shutdown. So, as we know from the history that during the national emergency of 1975-77, fundamental rights were severely curtailed, as was public assembly. But transport and all other activity continued, perhaps even more efficiently out of fear. Prime Minister of India and his team, therefore, this time had no past experience of its own to fall back on, for that matter, of other countries handling the pandemic to guide their action after the country went into lockdown. Now, I told you March 24. Now, what happened in March 19, 2020? Again, the Prime Minister of on March 19, 2020, when the Prime Minister of India announced a Janata curfew, 75 districts had reported cases and had to be locked down. Initially, the plan was to observe frequent Janata curfew rather than impose a total lockdown. But the number of districts under lockdown soon went up to 548. That is 3/4 of the 720 districts in the country. So therefore, the piecemeal approach has to be given up. And at this time, the Prime Minister decided to waste no more time and take the tough. It was tough, but it was necessary to impose a 21 days countrywide lockdown. The choice was between life and livelihood, and the government chose life. Now, another one thing which is important is that the World Health Organization says the coronavirus pandemic is the defining world health crisis. And our Prime Minister pointed out that the scale of the challenge was huge. Why huge? Because even World War I and II did not affect as many countries as the coronavirus has done. And India imposed a 3-week lockdown at midnight on March 24, giving the public not more than a few hours notice, and it made an alarm that if we are not, or if we fail to tackle the pandemic during the shutdown period, the country, or it would take the country 21 years back. So the kind of collective effort at social distancing combined with hand and respiratory hygiene practices that reduce the risks of transmission, and public health measures like testing and contact tracing are crucial in the fight against coronavirus pandemic. And yes, as we all know, the need of the hour is flattening the curve. So, as I told you about the history of this Janta curfew, now therefore the efforts which were undertaken by the present government can be summarized as follows. Now, it is not possible to tell all of them, but a few important words that needs to be discussed is MPs were asked to spread awareness among the people in small groups about coronavirus and suggested that they should refrain from launching any mass agitation. So mass agitation was prohibited. On one hand, it is very much required to keep ourselves clean. But the challenge is that to make sure that the population do not get panic. Second thing is that the Prime Minister definitely he heaped praise on doctors, medical staff, airline crews, those who are involved in this coronavirus crisis. Because till now they are working positively and tirelessly. Definitely, media is also included in this. Ambassadors and high commissioners in all countries are in regular touch with all Indians abroad, and the Ministry of External Affairs COVID-19 control room helplines are active. Teams are taking calls, guiding them in the matter. And as we know that the government of India has also announced significant investment to the tune of rupees 15,000 crores for India COVID-19 emergency response and health system preparedness package. And what is the advantage of this package? This will allow for rapid ramping up of the number of corona testing facilities, personal protective equipment, isolation beds, ICU beds, ventilators, and other essential equipment. And then again addressing the nation on May 12, 2020, the Prime Minister announced the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, self-reliant Indian mission, with an economic package of rupees 20 lakh crores. Why this package is important? It is important because it is considered as an economic stimulus mission with a focus broadly on land, labor, liquidity, laws, infrastructure. It was declared that economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant demography, and demands are the 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as you know, this package is so important that we have got to see many webinars conducted in and around this topic. Apart from all these things, there are many other initiatives undertaken, right from the ringing of the bells to switching of the lights, etc. Now, despite these initiatives, despite of these efforts which have been undertaken by the government of India, what are the challenges? And if we look at some of the important challenges that are faced during this crisis or during this disaster, first, as we all know, large population. Large population, along with this, the challenges of social distancing, densely populated urban areas, non-universal access to water, and soap for hand washing. If we are conscious, or even if we are conscious that we should sanitize our hands, we should wash our hands, But don't you think it is very difficult to practice all the time? What about kids? What about the children? What about the poor people? What about the other section of the society? So this is challenge. The next one is that a large number of people suffer from chronic hypertension, for example. And next, substantial the population live below the poverty line. Large number of migrant workers move from one state to another for their livelihood. Another the important problem and very difficult to solve is that according to data from the Indian government, more than 80% of the cases in India are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic, never know in whose body virus is there, and therefore making the population vulnerable to community spread of the virus. Although the pandemic appears to be concentrated in more affluent and industrialized districts, with millions of migrant workers from these areas are moving to their home district after the lockdown was eased, as Atanu sir was also discussing about this. Another challenge is that we are not just fighting this pandemic, but we are also fighting an infodemic. Now, infodemic is a term which got popular when the World Health Organization Director General remarked during a speech in the Munich City Conference on 15 February 2020 in the context of COVID-19. Now, what is this? An infodemic means that it is the most common source of information about COVID-19. As we know, that the government website and the online sources. The term infodemic has been used for the rapid spread of information, no doubt, but it also includes unreliable information, rumors, gossips. And as we know, social media is an important source of misinformation and perhaps needs better regulation. And there is a very well-known article on this which has been published in medical journal Armed Forces India by Science Direct, and the article is the infodemics of COVID-19 healthcare professionals in India. These are some of the challenges. Apart from this, there are many other challenges, but these are some of the important ones. Now, the way forward. Different government officials have said on record that COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity. But the question is, an opportunity for what exactly? In 2009, Canadian author and social activist Naomi Klein wrote a book entitled as The Shock Doctrine, The Rise of Disaster Capitalism, where she argued that governments and ruling elites use crises and disasters as an opportunity to push through unpopular free market policies. Now, the question is, has the Indian government been trying something similar during this COVID-19 pandemic? When asked to, Dr. Jayati Ghosh, professor at the Center for Economic Studies and Planning at Jawaharlal Nehru University, she contends that what India has been witnessing could more accurately be described as disaster authoritarianism rather than disaster capitalism. And then I was going this coronavirus and the studies on this. Another what interesting I found it that based on publicly available data, studies are conducted using vulnerability index index called as vulnerability index. Vulnerability index is used for identification of vulnerable regions in India on the basis of population and infrastructural characteristics. Composite index of vulnerability is computed at the state and district level based on 15 indicators across 5 domains. And what are these 5 domains? Socioeconomic, demographic, housing and hygiene, epidemiological, and health system. And in this index, it is found that a number of districts in large states. Now, what are these large states? Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Gujarat, and also Odisha. They found to have high overall vulnerability. Now, this figure is between 0 to 1. If we have the figure is 0, less vulnerable. If it is at the peak of vulnerability. People become vulnerable because they struggle to cope up with the crisis in various ways, financially, mentally, or even physically. Now, apart from this, what I'd like to say that the lockdown, the generalized lockdown, not the partial one, the generalized lockdown did one message. That is, everyone became aware of COVID-19. Because in India, basically India, it is not easy to communicate because it has many remote reasons. But because of this lockdown, people heard about it, at least heard about it. The concept of an infectious disease, what is infectious disease, is not easy to understand. In the rural areas, even now, they will consider it to be caused by a goddess visiting their village. So also is the case of chickenpox. Then, when you introduce the term virus, it does not make any sense to many group people. So at least the lockdown has made some alarming situation that, okay, we need to be careful about it. It is well said that small things bring big change or great change. Like a little thing, for example, Prime Minister has shared his Yoga Nidra video, in which an animated Modi with a dream body demonstrates to help people deal with the stress of self-isolation. State governments in India, no doubt, have showed more heart and understanding in the crisis. A scenario of cooperative federalism. As Mahapatra was also discussing throughout his lecture, what cooperative federalism was marked. Trade unions, private citizens, other collectives are distributing foods and emergency ration. I myself have never given any food to birds or any street dogs or any animals. But after this lockdown, I myself have started giving some food to the birds, to the street dogs, etc. Economic crisis is here. Best example, protection of livelihood of the migrant workers. Slowdown of the economy. Political crisis is ongoing. Now, if we see the political crisis is ongoing, there is a syndrome. We suffer from different types of syndrome in health science, we know. But here, the syndrome is mine is bigger than yours, which is marked among different political parties. The psychological stress is also enduring. For example, in our lifetime, have we ever heard so many frequency of ambulance sound? We have never thought of remaining at a distance from our closed ones, or we see that fear of going to the hospital, or we see the alarming rate of COVID-19 case, etc. The frequency, definitely it is causing psychological strain. In Jaleswar, in fact, Jaleswar never till this year, I have never heard so many frequency of ambulance going, coming, etc. and really creates a disturbance situation. So psychological stress is enduring. The mainstream media, no doubt, has incorporated the COVID story into its 24/7. Therefore, pandemics have a devastating effect on the morbidity and mortality, causing huge public health concerns along with economic, social, and political disruption for countries. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. And we are to see when we are moving to the next world, which will be a corona-free world. Now, what are the different types of, based on the current status of COVID-19 and the lessons from its early response? India, what I feel, we need to prioritize 5 measures. No doubt it is working on it. And if more prioritizing can be done with these 5 measures, then situation can become better. First one, definitely increasing testing capacity. And India can do this quickly by harnessing the capacity of the private sector for laboratory, test kits, supplies. The government will also have to increase the density of capacity of test kits. India's domestic PPE kit production has been a great success story which provides reasons for optimism. Assisting the poor workers, second, to have different workers include programs offered along the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation in 2017 report. These policies include provision of affordable housing, emergency employment schemes, social entitlement, and service provision. Regular health services and these programs to avoid a resurgence of vaccine-preventable diseases, infectious diseases, chronic illness, and in this partnership, private sector are necessary to ensure continuity of provision. See, this is a very challenging because most of the doctors, they are suffering from corona. If the situation goes like this, what will happen to the ordinary people? Emergency measures need to be enforced. For example, social distancing. Along with social distancing, physical distancing is also very much necessary. Effective quarantine procedures. We should not hide. I have heard about many cases people hide themselves only because they will be quarantined. But if you are hiding themselves, you are not only causing harm to yourself but also to your near and dear ones. And this realization has never come up, have never touched our minds now. I have seen nearby to my house people coming outside and hiding themselves, and police are coming, ambulance is coming, just they're dragging them from their house and taking them to the COVID care centers. Home isolation is a very paid quarantine measures are there. Mandatory mask wearing. You must be noticed in WhatsApp and different types of social media. You must have where people put their mask. very less number of people, they will be wearing the mask covering their nose and mouth. People will be wearing their mask on their head or below the chin, ear, etc. So what is the use of wearing such type of mask? Mandatory mask wearing, hand hygiene habits, along with improved detection, containment, and it is also necessary to enable responsible monitoring, introducing national data law to improve India's emergency response and safeguard against data privacy concerns. So data should be privately, it must be secure. So coming to the concluding part, no doubt we or India is at a crucial juncture in the fight against COVID-19. But the country has responded with urgency and determination as reflected in its bold and decisive leadership. The government has definitely aggressively set up measures that is fit. What is fit? Find, isolate, test, treat, trace. And as we all know that the mantra Jaan hai to Jahan hai is now modified into Jaan bhi Jahan bhi. Priority was given only to life. Now, rather, the need of the hour is to give priority to life and livelihood. That's why unlocking procedure. We must prepare for the worst, but we do not expect doomsday scenario. So we should keep our fingers, toes firmly crossed. So it is right to keep ourselves safe by staying at home. And we should know that everybody's cooperation is a must while maintaining social and physical distance. And this can be possible by staying at home and staying safe. Then only the phrase which is mentioned in the preamble of the Indian Constitution as we, the people of India, will be meaningful, and the fight against pandemic COVID-19 will be championed with a sense of collective responsibility. Thank you, one and all. And again, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Good morning. Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Uh, okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Respected Principal Madam, Dr. Jyotsna Ghosh, Chief Guest, Professor Atanu Mahapatra, my fellow speakers of this session, and the participants. It's a pleasure, in fact, a privilege to be invited to this webinar of Jagannath College, especially by the Political Science Department. I'm thankful to the Principal Madam and the whole of the organizing team of this conference, and especially the coordinator or the convener of this webinar, Mr. Ranjit. I am going to speak on COVID-19, immigrants, diaspora, or the Indian government's response. We all are now living a borderless world. Of course, not in the physical sense. And this borderliness is manifested by transnationalism. It is the borderliness that defines our existence in the present day world. So what happens somewhere else in the world, we are going to be affected by this. We all have to share the goodies and the baddies of the world. We share technologies, We share knowledge, we share intelligence, best practices, and so on. And at the same time, we also share the deadly diseases like or epidemics like the coronavirus. We are living in such an integrated world. What happens in one corner of the world, the other corner of the world gets affected by this. Somebody eats something in China, in India, and other parts of the world, we get a deadly indigestion, that is the coronavirus. But an unfortunate aspect of COVID-19 is that initially it was being seen as an imported disease. And in India, the media, some of the academia, they started blaming the immigrants of the diaspora for that. It was precisely the spread of the Indian immigrants across the world. This was being viewed that caused the initial infection. And the first case came to Kerala through an Indian student who came from the epicenter of the coronavirus, Wuhan in China. Then Indians from abroad, they started returning to India from different countries till the international flights were suspended. And the Indian abroad, we should remember that the Indian nationals who are staying abroad or the Indian diaspora or the Indian immigrants, they have every right to come back to India. And India has every obligation to take them back. We all are living such an integrated world that COVID-19 had to come to in India. And it cannot be the immigrants or the diaspora who can be blamed for that. And the next question or the idea that comes to our mind is, what are the relationship between COVID-19, the immigrants of the diaspora, and the Indian government? COVID-19 has certainly brought the diaspora and the government of India very closer. Indian government's serious concerns and actions for the diaspora, like Vande Bharat mission, my friend Ramakrishna will, I think, speak on that in detail, can be understood as a manifestation of the proactive diaspora policy of the present government. How the government of India is approaching the diaspora or the immigrants in this critical juncture is an extension of the proactive foreign policy that the present government is following. How the diaspora can come in rescue or how the diaspora can help the government in the COVID-19 situation, a crisis situation, is of paramount importance. But before we discuss these issues, let us highlight the fact how we have moved in terms of our foreign policy from the Nehruvian paradox or Nehruvian duality to a very proactive, very warmth, very affectionate, very meaningful relationship and engagement with the diaspora. We had a solid engagement with the diaspora or the overseas Indians in the pre-independence era. As all of us know, Subhash Chandra Bose, Bir Savarkar, Ras Bihari Bose, Shyamji Krishna Burma, all of these people, they had fought for India's independence from abroad. And all of us know about the Gadar movement, which started in the foreign country, USA, in Canada, and that was also extended to Britain. These people, they fought against the British rule in their own country, in Britain, challenging the British rule, destabilizing the British rule. And all of us also know how Mahatma Gandhi fought against the Britishers in South Africa. Okay, so in the pre-independence era, we had a solid relationship with the overseas Indians. I'm not going to go into detail into that. And in the pre-independence era, in 1946, when Nehru had gone to Singapore, addressing a gathering, Nehru said, India has not forgot its children. And when India becomes independent, when India takes the responsibility, when it takes its destiny in its own hand, it will certainly adopt its children who are living outside of India. But the same Nehru, who had promised that once India becomes independent, then you will adopt the Indians who are living outside of India. In 1948, in the Constituent Assembly, the same Nehru, when India becomes free and India becomes independent and becomes the first Prime Minister of India, he says, who are these overseas Indians? Are they Indians? He is asking this question. And that greatly frustrated the Indians who were living outside because they were looking so much towards India. They were feeling that once India becomes independent, India will adopt them. But now India is rejecting them. And during the Chinese War, Nehru asked for donations from the Indian overseas. And a journalist asked them, you are asking this question, who are these Indians? Now you are asking them, you are asking donations from them. Nehru said, these people have dual responsibility. One towards their home country, India, and one towards the host country where they are living. So a duality was to be marked in Nehru's approach. And in 1990s, when India became India faced the serious foreign debt crisis, then India certainly looked towards its diaspora for help, and diaspora helped India. And in 2000, for the first time, under the leadership of Vajpayee, in the Vajpayee government, a committee was formed to make a detailed study on the Indian diaspora, and that was in 2000. In 2001, the committee submitted its report, and the committee for the first time prepared a detailed profile of the Indian diaspora who are living in different parts of the world. And the committee report goes by the name of High-Level Committee Report on Indian Diaspora. And now the present government is following a very proactive foreign policy. Till now, what we are doing with the diaspora, because we were only seeking their money. We were trying to ask the diaspora for help. But now this government is trying to attract the diaspora, trying to reach the diaspora personally. There is a warmth, there is an affection, there is a very proactiveness in our foreign policy engagement with the diaspora. Now let us discuss about some of the problems that the diaspora is facing now during this COVID-19 period. Initial reports in the month of April in Britain that suggested that, in England, that suggested that more number of deaths is occurring among the colored people in the UK. The National Health Service, England, the data showed that more number of colored people, Asians, African origin people, the Latin Americans, more number of these people, immigrants, are dying in comparison to the white population in Britain. And among the colored people, the number of death was occurring more in case of the Indians. And the same thing was happening in the US. More number of people of African origin were dying. But now the situation has changed. But if you take the case of Netherlands, where you have more of an integrated health system, where the Indians or the Hindustanis, they are called as Hindustanis because they had come from Suriname. Their forefathers had gone to Suriname, and from Suriname, they had come to the Netherlands. They are called as Hindustanis. These Hindustanis are more integrated to the health system of the Netherlands. So you will find there is no imbalance in the treatment of the people in Netherlands in so far as the COVID-19 is concerned. And many students are facing serious problems in their host countries. Some students, they work part-time to maintain their livelihood or meant to pay their tuition fees, but due to lockdown, they are not able to do this. And there is a huge cartel of jobs in the USA, UK, Australia, Canada, and so many of these countries. And American economy is teetering from an unprecedented job loss. 20 million job loss till the month of April, 20 million jobs were lost in USA, and unemployment rate was hovering around 15% in USA. So the Indian diaspora was very much badly affected by this. And to add salt to the injury of the Indians or the immigrant community, the Trump administration brought about an order imposing a 60-day immigration ban to USA. And that greatly affected the Indian diaspora community. In the media, there was a report on a father who had come to Delhi for some official work. He could not go. His family was in USA and he had come for some work, official work to Delhi. And due to this order by the Trump administration, he could not go. And another, tourism is one of the world's major economic sectors. It is the third largest export category after foods and chemicals. And in 2019, around 7% of the global trade was accounting from the tourism sector. And many of the small island countries, 80% of their GDP is dependent upon the tourism sector. And due to this COVID-19 situation, it has been in a havoc situation, tourism sector. And many of the Indian diasporic entrepreneurs, they have their investment in the tourism sector. You will find in USA, in Canada, in Australia, many number of Indians are hotel owners, motel owners, and many number of Indian origin people are employed in the tourism sector. So they are being greatly affected by this COVID-19 crisis. And the next aspect is how the Indian diaspora is helping itself and helping the country where they are living and their mother country, India. Okay, so as all of us know, diaspora is much beyond territoriality. And diaspora has double or multiple allegiance, as well as responsibility towards the host country, as well as the home country. And also they have a responsibility towards the globe. There has been an outpouring of support from the Indian diaspora during this pandemic. Several community-based organizations are providing much needed relief with CEOs, entrepreneurs, professionals from different industries, and the entire community. They're rallying to make contribution to various non-profit organizations. Indian doctors, nurses, health workers are immensely helping the people of their whole country. Whether it is China, you see many doctors in China are from Indian origin doctors in China. They're helping the Chinese people to fight this COVID-19 situation. And in USA, UK, Australia, Canada, Gulf countries, you find Indian health workers are working day and night in this period of crisis. They're helping the host country, they're helping their own group, and they're helping the motherland, India also. As all of us know, more than 30% of doctors in USA are of Indian origin. And UK has a sizable number of Indian doctors. And there is a large number of Indian doctors, nurses, and health workers, mostly from Kerala. They're working in the Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain. Okay, and professionals of Indian origin, ranging from medicine, pharma, law, media, and other sectors, are lending their weight to fight against the COVID-19. And through a platform in New York City, New Lift, this is a platform where the Indian community has come together, and they are provide meals, free food to all the medical staffs in New York City. Not only to the Indians, to all the staffs, health workers in New York City. They're providing free food to them who are working in the COVID-19 situation. So this New Lift is campaigning to address hunger, and they are providing counseling services. Suppose somebody is psychologically depressed, they are providing psychological services, counseling services to the fellow Indians. They are also providing free legal advice to them. And there is another organization called Association of Indians. It's called GOPIO. global organization for people of Indian origin, which is working continuously to help the stranded Indians by providing them with rations of food bags. They are helping the students. They're providing them rations. They're providing them food bags, groceries. Okay, and they have also provided food bags to the Indian migrants in India, Delhi. And apart from their host countries, they are also providing food bags in Delhi, in Chennai. They have provided food bags. And Indiaspora, again a high-profile diaspora group, has raised about 6 lakh US dollars to fight hunger and provide relief to the vulnerable population affected by the pandemic in the United States and in India. And Indiaspora is campaign Chalo Give. They have, through this campaign, they have provided around 7 million meals in USA and India in April, in the month of April, to the migrant workers. And in the UK, the Prince of Wales, he has supported British Asian Trust and its emergency COVID-19 fund. And this was a great philanthropic appeal by the Prince of the diasporic communities in the UK. So, Indian diaspora is playing a key role in the fight against COVID-19. Indian communities around the world are standing with and supporting vulnerable communities that have been very severely impacted by this pandemic. So now let us discuss about how the government of India's response to the diasporic population who are stranded in this COVID-19 situation. Modi, the present Prime Minister, in 2014, addressing the Indian community in New York's Madison Square Garden, which is famous, all of us know. The Prime Minister had promised that I will never let you down. He had promised to the diaspora that I will never let you down. And the following year in Dubai, he said, he thanked the Indian workers in the Gulf for their contribution to the motherland. Even if it rains in India, you open your umbrellas to keep us safe. अगर यहाँ पे इंडिया में बारिश होता है तो आप लोग छाता निकाल देते हो यहाँ पे गल्फ में क्योंकि आप इंडिया को सेव करने के लिए. Okay, so Modi had promised them, whenever you will need me, I will never let you down. And the situation has come, and Modi has come forward to help the stranded Indians. And Modi is responding in a much bigger way. And the government of India's concern has been to how to strengthen the financial situation of the citizens, provide psychological support to people in diaspora, and create Indian lobbies to support NRI or PIO, that is non-resident Indians or the persons of Indian origin, in dealing with the crisis. And Indian health minister, prime minister, foreign ministers, ambassadors, and high commissioners, they have talked to their counterparts of other countries. And in the wake of this pandemic, Narendra Modi has participated in many multilateral engagements with foreign countries. And in fact, he had initiated this SAARC meeting for this COVID-19, how to address the COVID-19 situation by the SAARC countries. And due to the effort of the government of India, the Qatar government has been providing free food, free treatment to the stranded migrants who are working in Qatar. And whose visa has been expired, they have been allowed to stay if they like. And government is providing them free treatment and free food. And that has been due to the personal relation and due to the efforts of the government of India. And India, as all of us know, has sent medicines, especially hydrochloroquine, PPE kits, gloves, masks, and other health-related equipments to different countries of the world. To a far country like Brazil has been of great appreciation from India. And how the Indian government and the Indian embassy is helping the diaspora, we can know from an example of a small country like Mali. Mali is a very small African country where Indian diaspora's number is about 400. And India had sent various medical equipments to those countries. And the embassy in those countries, in the embassy in Mali, had formed a WhatsApp group. Had asked the community to form a WhatsApp group. Apart from the email communication, apart from the telephone communication, they have formed a WhatsApp group, Indian diaspora immigrants in Mali. And through that WhatsApp group, they are chatting among themselves, keeping their spirit up. At the same time, they are raising money. They are raising money not only for India, but also their home country, that is Mali. So they are saying that we have dual responsibility, one for our Janam Bhumi and one for our Karam Bhumi. Karam Bhumi is the Mali. So we can understand how in a small country like Mali, how active the Indian embassy, how active the diaspora group are themselves. So they are very much concerned that they have dual responsibility, one towards their own country, home country India, and one to their host country where they are living. And my friend Ramakrishna will speak in detail about Vande Bharat mission. I'm just giving you a brief idea about that. Before starting Vande Bharat mission, Indian government had approached the diaspora in many crisis situations. In 1972, a crisis had happened in Uganda. As you know, many Gujarati traders were living in Uganda, which is an East African country. In 1972, the post dictator of that country, Idi Amin, he said, I will throw out the Asians out of my country, Uganda, Indians. He said, God came to my dream and God has dictated me to throw these Asians out of this country, Uganda. So the next day, he said, God said me, I will throw these Indians, Asians out of my country in 90 days. Then he said, next day he comes and he says, no, God has again come to my dream and he has said, throw them out in 3 days of time. Okay, at that time, Indira Gandhi, our prime minister, approached the Ugandan government and appealed the Indians to come to India. But most of them, they preferred to go to UK, Australia, Canada at that time. In the 1990s, during the Gulf War, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, and then America got involved, nearly 11,12,000 Indians, they came back to India through a 2-month-long operation. And the film, Akshay Kumar's film, Airlift, is based on that. In 2015, Indian Indian Armed Forces, they evacuated like 6,000 Indians and foreign nationals from Yemen in April 2015, when there was a conflict between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. And through the Vande Bharat mission, which started in April 6, today the 5th stage of the Vande Bharat mission is going to complete, and from tomorrow, 1st of September, the next 6th stage of the Vande Bharat mission is going to start. Through these 5 stages of Vande Bharat mission, around 12 lakh Indians have been evacuated from different countries of the world, whether it is USA, UK, Australia, the Gulf countries. Okay, and the Indian Navy has also started Operation Samudra Setu, and through that, many people from Maldives and from Gulf countries, they have been taken back to India. My friend Ramakrishna will speak on that. Then in the concluding part, I will focus on what are the future actions involving the diaspora. The academia, the other sections of the society, we need to think how we can make a cooperative world, because we know how the world has been disturbed by this COVID-19 situation, and some of the personal relationship has been also lost. And now on the academic, as different sections of the society, we have to think how we can rebuild the cooperative world that we used to live, and a society, cooperative society, in the post-COVID-19 period. And Indian diaspora is going to certainly help India in maintaining good relationship with their host countries. And India has not many economic opportunities, especially in the health sector. There is much more possibilities that we can work with USA and maybe with the UK and some of the countries in terms of our health economy. And in post-COVID-19 era, the diaspora also may help to develop our economy as well as business ties with many of the developed countries. The business opportunities will be significant for India in post-COVID-19 world, as it needs to kickstart the economic activities and connecting with Indian diaspora across the world. And Indian diaspora has been a source of remittances, technology, and intellectual power. But they are coming back to India through the Vande Bharat mission. And government of India needs to formulate a policy how to rehabilitate these people. As all of us know, India is the largest recipient of remittances. Remittances means foreign money that these immigrants of the diaspora sends back to home. Around $80 billion we received last time. And 40% of these remittances that come from the Gulf workers, the Indian workers who work in Gulf countries. As all of us know, the oil economy has sunk by 25 to 30%. So there are huge job losses in the Gulf countries. So our immigration to Gulf countries might not be the same as it used to be. So it is the responsibility of the government of India to rehabilitate these workers who have come back from Gulf countries, how to rehabilitate these workers. And Kerala government especially is going to face a very tough challenge, because most of the workers who work in Gulf countries are from Kerala. Also the Bihar government, the Uttar Pradesh government, they have to face serious challenges. So to conclude, I would say this proactive approach to the diaspora is a part of a very proactive, engaging, warm, affectionate foreign policy that this government is trying to follow. This government is trying to make a face-to-face, person-to-person approach engaging the diaspora. So with that, I conclude my speech. And once again, I extend my thankfulness to the principal madam, to all the organizing team of Jagannath College, and I am really thankful for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you.
Am I audible to you? Am I visual also? I think my video is not coming here. Hello? Can you see me? But the camera is on. Why so? Maybe some problem.
Am I visible now? Okay. Okay. Anyway, can you manage without my this thing also? I just want to share my presentation also. So, if possible, let's say, I'm sharing it. Can you see it? I started. Okay. Okay. Anyway, now you can mute yourself. Good afternoon, one and all. At the outset, let me congratulate the organizer of Jagannath Degree College, Jaleswar, for organizing this webinar on a timely and much relevant theme called COVID-19 and India's response. At the same time, I'm thankful to the principal madam, Jyotsna Ghosh madam, Shravan sir, the HOD of the department, and my dear Ranju, for giving me this opportunity, to share my views among the galaxy of thinkers, like Dr. Atanu Mahabatra, Dr. Shivshankar Mahanti, Dr. Rajashree Datta, Dr. Kamalakanta Das, and Dr. Bagmire from Maharashtra. Okay. I'm really humbled. And now let's look at the theme. Since the theme chosen for today's webinar is COVID-19 and India's response, to me this topic is very comprehensive, combining almost every theme under the sky. I would say you can include anything within this umbrella term called India's response. Being a student of international relations, it prompted me to look at India's foreign policy response due to the COVID-19, which led to the geopolitical fallout in world politics. And I believe the Vande Bharat mission as a response from the government of India to deal with the crisis of the Indian diaspora living abroad and to evacuate them timely without much problems would remain the thrust of my discussion. But before going into the discussion, I would tell you that the entire theme of my discussion would be divided into two parts. One, of course, is the theoretical one. The second is the statistical one or the practical one. Being a student of political science and international relations, many a time we encounter with two things. One is high political and low political. The other is hyper globalist versus global. As you know, that the time we live in, particularly issues like trade war, Cold War between China and US, which you can say Cold War 2.0. Then the idea of Chinese expansion, to which I call it Chinese Leviathan, unmindful, aggression towards its neighbors, and the dispute in South China Sea, Chinese extension of its boundaries beyond its natural borders, US-Iran standoff, Israeli-UAE, rapprochement. In spite of all these high political issues, what we have seen, a low political discourse, particularly a health crisis, born out of the coronavirus, which I call as Wuhan virus, which biologically we named it as COVID-19, suddenly occupied the center stage, driving the discourse of entire international politics since then. And since COVID-19 has caused those kind of confrontations, those kind of challenges that we are facing today, it became pertinent for us to understand a state's response, not just internally, but also globally, to handle all kind of geopolitical consequences that comes before the country. at this moment. And India being one among the prominent members of global community, to which even many call as the sub-power capital of the world, how it responds to this, pandemic, challenges of pandemic, that remains to be seen, isn't it? Premise, we can start the discussion, isn't it? Let me start with the first slide of the PowerPoint, which says COVID-19 geopolitical consequences in India. As I told you, that unprecedented situations required unprecedented decisions. And the COVID-19 crisis, which had created economic, social, political, and geopolitical consequences unparalleled in history, that inevitably affected key aspects of foreign policy of the countries worldwide. And these geopolitical consequences, not just limited to foreign policy, they also include a country's relations with major powers, its relation with its, citizens living abroad, to which we can call as humanitarian aid, missions like development and peacekeeping, and importantly, fight against disinformation and the cyber attacks. And India being the second largest populous country in the world, also had to face the stupendous challenges that have been confronted by COVID-19. And in today's discussion, what we will discuss, one such challenge that India had to confront from the COVID front is to evacuate the Indians living abroad, to which we call as Vande Bharat mission. But in order to understand the Vande Bharat mission, you need to have a conceptual clarity or understanding of the working of foreign policy, how foreign policy works. Those who are students of international politics, they know better than me that foreign policy is not an autonomous discipline. Rather, it is a subsystem between the larger narrative called international relations, or to be precise, if I can, simply, analyze it. If international relation is the, entirety, then it has at least two subsystems. One is international politics, which deals with international system, its structures, its functioning, and the processes. And the other system, subsystem, remains the foreign policy, which partly discuss the national policies and deals with the micro level analysis of the country's foreign policy, isn't it? And when we say about foreign policy as a national policy, it's not largely the domestic policy, because many a time people confuse national policy with domestic policy. Foreign policy, although is a national policy, but is different from that on many respects, because while the national policy is largely limited to the domestic constituency, the foreign policy has to be adopted, implemented towards the larger environment or the external setting, isn't it? Therefore, we have to understand foreign policy from that perspective. And when we try to understand foreign policy from an external setting perspective, then we try to understand foreign policy in the lenses of decision making. I mean to say, foreign policy is nothing but a process of decision making, and the larger process of decision making, as we understood, is called as the steering process, where many stakeholders, they take part in the decision making. As a student, those who study foreign policy, they know that the state makes foreign. But as a list of international, national and foreign, doesn't it? Largely deals with the requirements of the foreign policy decision making of India towards the global countries. And my dear friend, when I say foreign policy and decision making, it may look easy from the outset, but if you look otherwise, there are two terms called, the box stops here and the devil's advocate. If you try to understand foreign policy from that perspective, many a time what happens, the leaders, they do not make decisions on their own. For example, if you look at Dr. Manmohan Singh, generally whatever decisions were made by the government, somebody else used to make it. Dr. Manmohan Singh was only the, what I can say, the crown, which is visible to the outside of the Prime Minister of India. When the leader does not make its own foreign policy, somebody else makes it. We call that kind of foreign policy as a devil's advocate. That means your decisions are taken by someone else. But whereas the buck stops here is a different thing. If you look at, the president of United States of America, Truman, isn't it? When nuclear bombs were dropped in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he took the decision. Nobody else. He said the buck stops here. I am the one who is supposed to make the decision. I should not pass the decision to someone else. Because dropping a nuclear bomb is not a straightforward decision. It's a decision which has significant geopolitical fallout. Yet the president took the responsibility and rise to the situation. Similarly, if you look at the COVID situation and India's Vande Bharat mission, when it comes to the foreign policy of India, particularly to evacuate the diaspora abroad, the decisions are being taken by the Prime Minister. And he is the one who was leading from the front. That is the reason why I said that he is the linchpin around whom all decisions were involving. That means all kind of decisions that were taken then were communicated to him, or he was the one who was taken the final thing, isn't it? That is the reason probably why, isn't it? The present Prime Minister Modi, isn't it, is a leader in true sense of the term, to which we can say that who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, putting India in a rightful place of Vishwaguru for being the beacon light at a time of unending darkness by evacuating the Indians from such a pathetic situation. And when we try to understand the foreign policy again during the pandemic situation, I will bring you the second theoretical premise, that is hyper-globalist and globalony. Well, my dear friend, as we are living in a global village where everything is seen from liberal international perspective, isn't it? Which says that that means there is nothing called state, and the role of state is just minimized. State sovereignty has evaporated, or the sovereignty of state has withdrawn because of the overemphasis of globalization. The hyper-globalist are the one who says the role of the state has reduced, shrunk, whereas globalization's role has increased manifold, penetrating to each nook and corner of the world, to which we call it global village, isn't it? The hyper-globalists say that globalization is more powerful than the state, and even they say that the citizens, they do not look up to the state whenever a situation arises, rather they go to the international global agencies. That is the reason probably why I put forth this debate called hyper-globalist versus globalony, in order to understand the response of the state, particularly the Indian state, during a pandemic, which was largely the result of globalization. If you look at this disease, pandemic is also a global disease, which is not produced by ourselves. It came from China. It was now the China has exported it to different corners of the world, and India has also become a victim of that, and that really takes us to our the second theoretical premise called globalony. The globalists are the one who say that whatever may be the tenor, whatever may be the context, or whatever may be the intensity of globalization, ultimately the state will remain all powerful. The state, being the supreme actor in international politics, will respond whenever the time requires or demands. And we have seen in a pandemic when all international institutions, whether you talk about the WHO, the One Health Organization, I call it, even though it is World Health Organization, or whether you talk about the United Nations Organization, which is very quick to raise any kind of human rights issues. And this pandemic doesn't look to it as a human rights issue because China involves. China is one among the permanent members of the Security Council, isn't it? And not just WHO and UNO, almost every international institutions, they remain a mute spectator when the pandemic was spreading like wildfire, and people's were killed like dogs and the rats. That is when the state responded. That is when the state came to the scene. The state had shown the true leadership, isn't it? And that is the reason, probably, my dear friend, I have taken this hyper globalist and globalony premise to make you understood that whether you talk about liberal internationalism, whether you talk about liberal institutionalism, whether you talk about hyper globalization, at the end of the day, that real estate comes to the picture. That real estate, which always rescues the citizens out of all kind of troubles. And what we have seen, isn't it? This, the decision-making capability of India at this unprecedented time, led by the Prime Minister, stopping the buck in his own table, isn't it? And presenting the world one among the unparalleled evacuation mission in the history of the world. As Sibai was telling, that in 1972 also, and even in 1990, when there was a Gulf War also, India has launched the Vande Bharat mission. To not launched Vande Bharat mission, an evacuation mission, isn't it? To airlift the people, those who suffer from the Gulf War that has taken place in the Middle East. But this mission is unparalleled in the history, in the sense that you won't find this kind of evacuation mission anywhere in the world. Even though the mighty America calls itself as a superpower, even though there is a superpower called Russia, even China itself were not in a position to evacuate people in such a massive scale, which India has been doing since May 7th. The Vande Bharat mission, which formally started on May 7th, although much before it, even in the month of March, we started the first evacuation mission from the Wuhan town where the virus outbreak first. But yet, literally, the government of India, through its flagship organization, the Ministry of External Affairs, has launched the Vande Bharat mission on 7th May. And to your utter surprise, my dear friend, many people may criticize it, but you have to listen to the realities also. That the way the government has put all its mechanism in place, the way the government has responded, the way the government has planned things to bring massive number of people. As of today, more than 1.12 million Indians were repatriated from foreign land. It's not a small thing. Every month, in every phase, in the first phase, you had 84 number of flights traveling to 13 countries and evacuated at least 15,000 people. And maximum of the flights went to USA, UK, UAE, Philippines, Singapore. The numbers are given in the PPT. You can note it down. It's a rigorous exercise to put the numbers. Singapore, Bangladesh, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, and even in Bahrain, Oman, and Qatar. And if you compare the first phase with second phase, in the first phase the numbers were a bit low. The reason behind that, my dear friend, actually after May 17, there was an international lockdown. There was a flight went to almost all the destinations of the world. That is the reason probably why the Indian government couldn't able to send more flights in the month of May because of the flight ban. No other countries were allowing international flight, even though these flights meant for evacuation. But look at the phase 2. In the Vande Bharat mission, India has responded fully effectively in the phase 2 when it has sent 486 flights. It's a massive 486 flights were sent to not less than 40 countries. And remember, the phase 2, within it has 3 phases also. The phase 2 itself, then phase 2 additional, phase 3 plus. In phase 2 itself, India has evacuated 30,000 people, while in phase 2 additional, it has evacuated 33,342 people. And in the phase 2 plus, even more, 36,658 people were evacuated, taking the total strength to 1 lakh people in phase 2. 1 lakh people were evacuated from phase 2 with 114 flights international, and there are many feeder flights as well. And again, the leading countries to whom we have sent the flight to bring our own people were United States, United Arab Emirates, UAE, Canada, Saudi Arab, UK, Malaysia, Oman, Kazakhstan, Australia, Netherlands, Turkey, Vietnam, Thailand, Germany, Qatar, Kuwait. I mean to say, if you see in the second phase, we had an increasing number of flights going to increasing number of countries again to bring more number of people. And if you look phase 3 also, my dear friend, in phase 3 which started in June 11, continued until July 2. In this phase also, India has sent at least 600 flights on a foreign mission to evacuate peoples from at least 43 countries. And as the data available, at least 75,000 people were evacuated from USA with 53 flights traveling to that country, 24 flights to Canada, 16 flights each to Paris and Frankfurt, and a mammoth of 170 flights from flights to Gulf Cooperation Council. I mean, all the countries of Middle East. They have received 170 flights to send Indians to India. And that led to our phase 4, which started on July 3 and ended on July 31st. Again, you won't believe the numbers when I say 1,197 flights, including the feeder flights. Including the feeder flights means those flights who have traveled inside India to transport those repatriated Indians, those who came from abroad, including the feeder flights. The number is a massive 1,197 flights. Can you imagine? No government is in a position when only 800 people of China, Pakistan, they were stranded in China. Pakistan has raised its hand and expressed its helplessness that it cannot help to bring them back. Isn't it? Even China, many of its peoples were evacuated by Air Indian flights. Isn't it? And even China has thanked it before the border crisis emerged. China has also thanked India because of the humanitarian act that India has shown. Just not that, India has also evacuated the peoples from America, peoples of Maldives, peoples of Madagascar, Malaysia, Myanmar, Bangladesh, whatnot. I mean to say, we are a true Bispaguru in the sense that we have showed the world why you should be called as the soft power capital of the world, isn't it? And the phase 4 is a witness to that when India has exhibited its spirit of Vande Bharat by sending 1,197 flights to 29 countries all over the world to bring back at least 80,000 Indians. And in this phase, the main focus of the government of India has been the Gulf countries, Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. Apart from those who came by the vessels, those who came by the land borders, isn't it? Those who came by flight, their number remained a staggering of 80,000. That's not small by any margin. When we go to the phase 5, the phase which will come to end today evening, that continues from 1st August to 31st August. It is again, my dear friend, 1,115 aeroplanes and fighter flights of Air India and private jets, including 99 feeder flights that sent to at least 53 countries. The data were amazing. Many of the data are available in Ministry of External Affairs database. Some are available in many media houses. I have collected them to show you that how this Vande Bharat is unique and unparalleled in the sense that no country in the world, even the mighty America included, even the European countries, those who call them as most citizen-friendly countries of the world, or you may talk about the Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, those who were also, the club of economically developed countries, they also couldn't able to undertake this kind of massive undertakings. Whereas India, which is largely called as a developing nation, many generally call us a a backwater of world politics, also quite an underdeveloped nation, isn't it? Many also called as a a dark country of a dark continent. In spite of all this, we have shown our leadership quality to the country, to the world by sending 1115 flights in phase 5. And you won't believe me, in this phase, we have brought largest number of people. We have evacuated 130,000 people from United States of America, France, Germany, United Kingdom, UAE, and some other countries. From these countries, at least 130,000 people were evacuated, which in any sense is a massive scale. And the phase 6, which is planned to be started from September 1 and continue until September 31st, again has a proposed plan of 1,464 flights, which is available in the MEA website and also in the Air India website. 1,464 flights will be sent to 31 countries, and the target is again more than 1 lakh people will be evacuated from US, Canada, France, Germany, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arab, Singapore, UAE, UK, and some other countries where the citizens have applied for evacuation. And my dear friend, if you look at the MEA data, as on July 22nd, around 1,03,976 Indians have returned from Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh by land border. I mean to say, apart from the flight, those who have returned to India under this Vande Bharat mission. Remember, Vande Bharat mission is just not limited to the flight service. It is also continuing through the Sagarmala thing, which I mean to say through the vessels, through the naval ships, isn't it? And at the same time, there are also train and bus facilities to bring back those Indians who are living in our neighborhood, particularly in Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. And their numbers as of July, I mean to say it's a 1 month old data, isn't it? The number may be even higher. Then it was 1,03,976. And as per the spokesperson of MEA, more than 1.12 million Indians were already evacuated, while plans are in place to evacuate more Indians, those who desire to return back to home country in the phase 6, isn't it? And it is also believed that the phase 6 would even bring more number of people to the country than the other phases. And that brings us to our next discussion. What exactly is this Vande Bharat mission and why it has what implemented? Remember, my dear friend, the Vande Bharat mission, now you are clear what exactly is the Vande Bharat mission. The Vande Bharat mission, in a nutshell, is to bring back the people living outside to India, isn't it? And the philosophy behind this, my dear friend, which is ingrained in our synthetic philosophy that governs Hinduism, that Sanatana Dharma, which believes in service to mankind is service to God, isn't it? Which believes in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And based on that concept of Sanatana Dharma, this government also has made its entire edifice of governance, largely based on the premise of saving the life and serving the people. That is where the concept of India first comes, my dear friend. The Narendra Modi government, which has made its task, or what I can say, the government which has made its mission to save the life and serve the people, really has emulated the idea of India first. For bringing the Indians, whether they are living inside or outside, isn't it? The government, in fact, has rose to the occasion and made it a promise to rescue them all. When the Indian diaspora, particularly, my dear friend, those who have confronted with two imminent challenges. First is COVID-19. The second is, of course, job loss. And when they were supposed to be stranded in the foreign land without food, water, and shelter, the government rose to the occasion and told that previously, although your dollars were dear to us, now you are more dear than your dollars to us, and brought them to the homeland under the mission to which we called as the Vande Bharat mission, particularly enshrined with the philosophy of saving the life and serving the people. And what happened, my dear friend? That is how India became the become like a Vishwa Guru by knowing the way, showing the way, and going the way the world. And that perhaps is the reason why the world loudly calls India a soft power capital for its unique way of responding to the pandemic. By bringing back its people without any hesitation, come what may, the government has realized that the priority is to bring our nationals to the motherland, come what may. And if you look, the biggest beneficiary of this Vande Bharat mission, they're largely the migrants. I mean, to say the working professionals, and the students, particularly massive number of Indian students, they are going abroad for their education. If I will tell you, out of 50,000 Indians living in China, 30,000 plus are Chinese, 30,000 plus are students, and you would be, astonished to know that out of that, maximum number of citizens were plus, were studying in Wuhan, and government has quickly responded and brought them back. And when you compare, my dear friend, India's Vande Bharat mission with any other country in the world, then you will realize that you have a credible, effective, and transparent government at the helm of affairs with an enlightened leadership of Prime Minister Modi, who rose to every occasion that put before him as a challenge, and he used every challenge as an opportunity. As Dr. Rajesh Siddhartha Madam has also said, that we must learn how to make the challenges as an opportunity. The government really rose to those challenges and made them an opportunity, brought the Indians from abroad, and whatever mechanism was required, whether the counseling centers, whether the missions abroad for accepting the request of the citizens, or to help them financially, as Sibaya was telling, that the diaspora community in different countries, they also rose to the occasion. They have funded many people, those who were not in a position to travel by plane. But in spite of everything, the government response to this, pandemic was phenomenal. And if you see, in the light of the international paradigm, particularly hyperglobalization and globality, then you can realize while globalization has given you the disease, the government has rescued you. Therefore, the state is, of course, the primary actor, the supreme actor. The state is high above everything. When it comes to high politics and low politics, also the first premise that we have started, when although defense remains the high political issue, although security remains the high political issue, but the low political issues like health, the low political issues like now cyber security is in high level security, high political level, but earlier it was in low political things. But these low political things, my dear friend, also they have crumbled the iron curtain that was there between the high political and low political, and they told us that there is nothing called high political, low political. Everything is high political, and it depends how you deal with it. And the government of India, with the massive evacuation mission of Vande Bharat, has told that come what may, Indians remain first for us, and they will remain first for us always. With this, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. And I welcome any kind of questions. You can put me whatever you like. Thank you.
हेलो हेलो सर, आवाज आ रही है? ओके, गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीबॉडी. नेशनल वेबिनार ऑर्गेनाइज्ड बाय डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पॉलिटिकल साइंस, जगन्नाथ डिग्री कॉलेज, जलेश्वर, बालासोर, उड़ीसा. मैं हिंदी में बोलना चाहूँगा. तो इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए जो कन्वीनर है हमारे साथी रंजीत जी बेहरा सर, और उनके साथी, इनका मैं सबसे पहले मैं आभार मानता हूँ कि उन्होंने इतने अच्छे टॉपिक पे यहाँ पे वेबिनार आयोजित किया है. इस काम के लिए उन्होंने उनके प्रिंसिपल ऑनरेबल डॉक्टर ज्योत्सना घोष मैम, इन्होंने उनको सपोर्ट किया, और अतानु महापात्रा सर, अभी जिनका आप सुन रहे थे, डॉक्टर रामकृष्ण प्रधान सर, डॉक्टर राजेश्वरी दत्ता, डॉक्टर शिव शंकर महंतो, डॉक्टर कमलाकांत दास. इस कन्वीनर जो अभी मैंने बात की थी, जिन्होंने बहुत मेहनत करके, उनके सुबह सुबह मैंने चालू होते चेहरा देखा था तो बहुत मेहनत की उन्होंने. ऐसे रंजीत जी बेहरा, ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्रेटरी शरबन्नाथ, ऑर्गेनाइज कमेटी जो है वो सरोज कुमार, अशोक जी, निश्चल जी, और सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स. और मेरा जो सब्जेक्ट है वो है इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एंड कोविड-19. तो मैं इस बारे में बताना चाहता हूँ. अभी तो पॉलिटिकल बातें हो रही थी, तो मुझे सब्जेक्ट दिया तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव बातें दी है. वैसे तो मेरे दोनों सब्जेक्ट में मैंने मास्टरी की है, पॉलिटिकल साइंस भी की है और पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी की है. तो मैं एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की बात, खासतौर पे इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और उन्होंने कोविड के बारे में क्या क्या काम किए हैं. वैसे तो पॉलिटिकल जो नेता होते हैं वही बताते हैं कि क्या काम करना चाहिए एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को, लेकिन बहुत सारे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर ऐसे होते हैं जो समाज के भलाई के लिए, देश के भलाई के लिए कुछ अलग सा पैटर्न बनाते हैं और अपना काम बखूबी और बढ़िया ढंग से करने का काम यहाँ पे किया जाता है. वैसे तो इंडिया के मैंने 4-5 ऐसे पैटर्न्स लिए हैं. उस पैटर्न के आधार पे कैसे इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हुआ कोविड के बारे में बताने की मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. पहला जो तो भीलवाड़ा पैटर्न जो है, सबसे पहले भीलवाड़ा पैटर्न इंडिया में बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ. और राजस्थान का आपको सबको पता है, टीना डाबी जो आईएएस है, उन्होंने 2015 में टॉपर किया था, और वो 2018 से सब डिविजनल मजिस्ट्रेट बोल के भीलवाड़ा में है. तो उन्होंने, आप देखते हैं कि सबसे ज्यादा जो कोविड के पेशेंट थे शुरुआती दौर में हम देखते थे तो राजस्थान में मिल रहे थे. उसमें खास तौर पे भीलवाड़ा में इनकी आबादी ज्यादा से ज्यादा बढ़ रही थी. लेकिन टीना डाबी और उनको जो वहाँ के जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर है राजेंद्र भट्ट, और उनकी टीम, उन्होंने मिलके भीलवाड़ा में एक अच्छा सा काम करने की कोशिश की. वैसे कहा गया तो 19 मार्च में वहाँ भीलवाड़ा में पहली केस पाई गई जो कोविड की थी, और उन्होंने 20 मार्च से ही वहाँ का लॉकडाउन शुरू कर दिया. वैसे तो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने 25 मार्च से शुरू किया था, लेकिन उससे 5 दिन पहले ही भीलवाड़ा में टीना डाबी और उनके सहयोगी के साथ उन्होंने किया था. और ये ज्यादा समय न लेते हुए उनको पता चला था कि अब ये रोकना बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है, तो और इसे कैसे बचाया जाए, भीलवाड़ा को कैसे बचाया जाए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट कैसे बचाया जाए. तो उन्होंने एक पैटर्न बनाया था. उन्हें पहली बात ऐसे की कि पूरा जो जिला है उन्हें क्या किया कि बंद कराया. अंदर के लोग जिले के बाहर नहीं जा सकते हैं और बाहर के लोग अंदर नहीं आ सकते हैं, जिले के अंदर नहीं आ सकते हैं. ऐसा उन्होंने बनाया और लोगों को उन्होंने समझाया. ये पहली बार ही था तो लोगों को उन्होंने समझाया कि क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट है, आपके भविष्य के लिए क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट. उन्होंने बहुत समझाया. बहुत बार उन्होंने विनती भी की लोगों से कि आप ये करने से कोरोना बनने में बहुत मदद हो जाएगी, कोरोना खत्म होने में बहुत मदद हो जाएगी. इसलिए लोगों को समझाया, उनको विनती की. अगर उन्होंने माना ही नहीं समझो, तो डांट फटकार करके उन्होंने वो जिलाबंदी का जो कार्यक्रम था उसको अच्छी तरह से बहुत बढ़िया तरीके से निभाया। ये काम करना इतना आसान नहीं था क्योंकि लोगों को तो पता ही नहीं था ये क्या हो रहा है, कि ये कोविड क्या चीज़ है, इससे क्या हो सकता है, इसके बारे में ज़्यादा मालूमात न होने की वजह से लोगों को ये पता न होने से वो रास्ते पे आ रहे थे, दुकान खरीदी करना चाहते थे, अपना हर रोज़ का काम, रोज़मर्रा का काम करना चाहते थे, लेकिन उनको समझा-बुझा के के बारे में बता दिया। फिर बाद में ये एक ही दिन में बंद करने से फिर कुछ दुकानें खोलनी पड़ी उनको लिए, मुँह के लिए मास्क बाँधना ज़रूरी है, मास्क नहीं तो आप त्रिपाल बाँधो, कोई तो मुँह आप मुँह ढकना चाहिए, ऐसी कुछ चीज़ बचना चाहिए, ऐसे उनको समझाया। इतना ही नहीं जो खाने की चीज़ें थी, वो खाने की चीज़ें बाहर न खरीदें इसलिए घर पर देने की व्यवस्था में किया था। उनके साथ उन्होंने एनजीओ का भी सहारा लिया, जो स्वयं संस्था होती है, उनका सहारा लेके उन्होंने लोगों को मदद करने के लिए कहा, जहाँ गवर्नमेंट नहीं पहुँच सकते थे, तो जो झोपड़ी में हो, छोटे बस्तियों में हो और कहीं भी हो, जहाँ गवर्नमेंट नहीं पहुँच सकती थी, वहाँ एनजीओ ने बहुत वहाँ पे किया था। इनके साथ प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल तो थे ही, उसके प्राइवेट जो हॉस्पिटल थे, उनको भी साथ लेके काम किया गया और आइसोलेट और चेकिंग का काम बहुत बढ़ाने से यहाँ का जो रेशो था, बहुत बढ़ गया था, उसे कम करने की कोशिश इस ढीला पैटर्न किया गया और ये पैटर्न बाद में सब आप देख सकते हैं, 20 तारीख को उन्होंने शुरू किया था, वो 25 तारीख से फिर पूरे इंडिया में उसकी चर्चा होने लगी और वो पैटर्न पॉपुलर हो गया था। उसके साथ हम लोग महाराष्ट्र में देखते हैं, हाँ, धारावी पैटर्न ऐसा कहा सकते हैं। आपको सबको पता है अपने भारत की जो इकोनॉमिकल जो राजधानी है, कैपिटल है, वो तो मुंबई है और मुंबई में सबसे बड़ी झुग्गी जो मानी जाती है, स्लम एरिया माना जाता है, वो है धारावी। वो तो सिर्फ मुंबई में नहीं, भारत में नहीं तो पूरे एशिया में सबसे बड़ी वो स्लम एरिया है। तो वो होने की वजह से वहाँ पे छोटे-छोटे घर, छोटे-छोटे मकान थे, छोटे-छोटे हाउस थे। तो वहाँ पे जो कोविड की जो तादाद है, वो जल्दी से बढ़ने लगी। उसका कारण था कि लोग बहुत करीब-करीब रहते थे, छोटे घर थे, उनको सुविधा कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं थी। इसीलिए वहाँ पे बहुत पैमाने पे कोरोना बढ़ रहा था। लेकिन महाराष्ट्र के जो मुख्यमंत्री हमारे उद्धव ठाकरे जी और वहाँ के जो मंत्री हमारे शिक्षा मंत्री जो है और वहाँ के आमदार जो है, एमएलए है, उषाई गायकवाड़, इनने सब ने मिलके प्रशासन के साथ कोशिश की कि उसे कैसे खत्म किया जाए। इस कोरोना को कम से कम लोगों को हो जाए, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, उसका जो ग्रोथ है, उसको रोका जाए, इसलिए उन्होंने अपना पैटर्न बना दिया। उन्होंने क्या किया कि सबसे पहले उन्होंने क्या किया कि वहाँ के जो भी प्राइवेट जो हॉस्पिटल थे, वो सब उन्होंने खोल दिए और वहाँ पे कोरोना हॉस्पिटल नए से नए सिरे से गवर्नमेंट ने ही वहाँ बहुत जल्दी खड़े करने की कोशिश की। वहाँ के लोगों ने साथ दिया, प्रशासन ने साथ दिया और हॉस्पिटल जो है, नए हॉस्पिटल जो कोरोना के नाम से थे, वो बड़े पैमाने पे तैयार किए गए। इतना ही नहीं, स्कूल, कॉलेजेस, गवर्नमेंट के कुछ ऑफिसेस, उसे अडॉप्ट किया गया और वहाँ यहाँ कोरोना के पेशेंट और जिनको डिवाइड करना था, उसे दूर रखना था, उनको आइसोलेशन करने के काम यहाँ पे बड़े पैमाने पे हो गया। इतना ही यहाँ पे जो एनजीओज़ थे, उन्होंने बहुत हेल्प की और ऐसा माना जाता है कि गवर्नमेंट से ज़्यादा एनजीओ ने वहाँ पे बहुत बढ़िया काम वहाँ पे किया है। इतना ही नहीं कि डॉक्टर हो, प्राइवेट डॉक्टर हो, उन्होंने बहुत बड़ी जाँच करके, सब लोगों की जाँच करके, उनसे ये कोविड को हटाने का कोशिश प्रशासन के करने की कोशिश की है। इतना ही नहीं है कि जो इंजीनियर थे, उनका भी फ़ायदा लेके वहाँ पे बहुत सारी बिल्डिंग्स बनाई गई। वहाँ पे राशन देने का काम, अनाज देने का काम, खाने-पीने की चीज़ें देने का काम बड़े पैमाने पे हो गया। और उन्होंने थोड़ा-सा कायदे से बाहर आकर, कायदा जो कानून ने कहा था इतना ऐसा करो, वैसा करो, उससे बाहर आकर उन्होंने बहुत सारी मदद करने की कोशिश की और वहाँ का जो रेशो था, बहुत बड़ा था, है ना? वो कम हो गया। इनकी जो प्रशंसा जी है, जो माननीय अपने देश के प्रधानमंत्री हैं, मोदी जी, उन्होंने भी किए थे। हमने गवर्नमेंट ने महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट ने तो किए थे, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री जी राष्ट्रपति जी, इन सब ने उनकी सराहना की थी। इसके साथ आप देखते हैं कि अगर हम उड़ीसा की बात, तो बालासर में बहुत सारा बढ़िया सा काम हो गया है। वैसे चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब नवीन पटनायक साहब ने बहुत बढ़िया अच्छा काम किया था वहाँ पे। और ये जो है बालासर जो इज वन ऑफ द कोस्टल डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ उड़ीसा, ये समुद्री तट पर होने की वजह से, और ये खूबसूरत पर्यटन स्थल भी है बालासर। और अपने समुद्री तट, पारंपरिक खान पान, धार्मिक स्थलों, लोक संस्कृति से बहुत बढ़िया जाना जाता है। तो वहाँ पे के सुदर्शन चक्रवर्ती IAS कलेक्टर है, और उन्होंने अपनी बढ़िया से वैसा तो उड़ीसा में 5 करोड़ की आबादी तो बड़ा सा राज्य है, लेकिन उनका जो काम का तरीका है वो तो और स्टेट से बहुत बेहतरीन माना जाता है। और वहाँ पे उड़ीसा के जो IG सचिव मनोज मिश्रा ने बताया था कि शुरुआती दौर में उन्होंने 4 कदम उठाए थे। उन्होंने 4 चीजों से ये कोरोना को हटाने का काम वहाँ पे किया था। जो पहला जो उनका तो कदम था वो था ऐसा, सेल्फ रजिस्ट्रेशन पोर्टल बनाया और लोगों को दे दिया। यानी सेल्फ रजिस्ट्रेशन पोर्टल बना के क्या होगा कि बस सबको जो आइसोलेशन होने के लिए सबको आह्वान कर दिए, जिनको लगता है मुझे कोरोना हो गया है या होने की संभावना है, तो उन्होंने इसके लिए उन्होंने शुरुआती दौर में 15,000 रुपए, 15,000 रुपीज हेलो ओके सर। हाँ, उन्होंने अच्छी तरह काम किया था। तो पहला जो सेल्फ रजिस्ट्रेशन पोर्टल बनाया था, उसमें से लोगों को मदद करने की कोशिश यहाँ पे की गई थी। दूसरा था क्वारंटाइन में रहे लोगों को अपडेट उनको बनाया, उनका कॉल सेंटर भी अच्छी तरह से बना दिया। अपने परिजनों से मुलाकात करने की कोशिश उन्होंने की, और इसलिए उनसे घर से दूर न लगे, इसलिए उसे क्वारंटाइन उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी तरीके से कर लिया था। और तीसरा, जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने 25 मार्च से शुरू किया था, लॉकडाउन शुरू किया था, उनसे पहले ही उड़ीसा ने 22 मार्च को से लॉकडाउन बनाया था। और सबसे बड़ी बात कि कोविड स्पेशल हॉस्पिटल बनाने का काम सही मैंने उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट ने बनाया था। अब इस तरह वहाँ पे बालासोर में बहुत बढ़िया सा गवर्नमेंट के साथ-साथ भी उनका भी काम बहुत बढ़िया रहा। उन्होंने ज़्यादा न बढ़ने की कोशिश की और इसमें वो सक्सेस रहे। हम अदर स्टेट की जब हम तुलना करते हैं, तो बालासोर हो या उड़ीसा हो, उनका जो ग्रोथ रेट है, वो कम हमें दिखाई देता है। इसलिए हम ये कह सकते हैं। दूसरा एक पैटर्न हम बताना चाहूँ, महाराष्ट्र का ही है, जिसे मालेगाँव पैटर्न ऐसा कहते हैं। मालेगाँव एक नासिक जिला, उसमें से छोटा-सा तालुका है, छोटा कस्बा है। तो वहाँ पे 8 लाख, जो 8 लाख वहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन है। तो वहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम एक ऐसा आया था कि कोरोना की जो तादाद है और जिले से वहाँ पे ज़्यादा से बढ़ रही थी। और परेशानी की बात ये थी कि वहाँ छोटा शहर होने से और छोटे-छोटे घर, छोटे-छोटे मकान होने से यहाँ पे ज़्यादातर, और दूसरी एक बात ऐसी हो गई थी यहाँ पे कि मीडिया ने वगैरह बहुत सारा इसमें तबलीगी धार्मिक भावना जो है, वो तबलीगी ऐसा है, वैसा है, उनका चल रहा था। तो इसलिए वहाँ पे देखने का नज़रिया मालेगाँव की तरफ अलग-सा लग रहा था। यहाँ हमारे मुस्लिम भाई ज़्यादातर रहते हैं। तो यहाँ पे जो हेल्थ वाले थे, उनको भी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स नहीं मिल रहा था कि कैसा काम है। क्योंकि वहाँ पे देखा गया तो नेगेटिविटी ज़्यादा हो गई थी। तो ये अदर लोग वहाँ जाने के लिए तैयार नहीं थे, और वहाँ के भी लोग थे, जो हमारे मुस्लिम भाई थे या दूसरे भाई हमारे थे, बहुत गरीब थे, तो वो भी चाहते थे वो भी ना आए। ऐसे दोनों तरफ से चल रहा था। तब वहाँ पे जिलाधिकारी साहब ने बहुत बढ़िया से एक बीच का रास्ता, ये भी रास्ता नहीं, हाईली रास्ता नहीं और लोली रास्ता नहीं, अच्छा बीच का रास्ता निकाला, उसे मालेगाँव पैटर्न कहते हैं। उन्होंने क्या किया, यूनानी जो वहाँ पे पॉपुलर थी, यूनानी दवा जो थी, उसे मालेगाँव काढ़ा ऐसा बोलते हैं। उसमें बहुत सारी चीजें मिलाकर यूनानी दवा बनाई जाती है। अब बनाने के बाद वो वहाँ पे पीने के लिए सब बच्चों सबको कहा गया, है ना। उनका अलग-अलग चीज़ों से उन्हें यूनानी पद्धति से वहाँ पे इलाज किया गया और मेडिकल को चलते-चलते लेकिन ज़्यादा जो यूज़ हुआ तो यूनानी दवाओं का हुआ, मेडिसिन का हुआ और इसलिए वहाँ पे मालेगाँव में यहाँ पे बहुत सारा जो रेशो था, कोविड का जो रेशो था वो बहुत कम कम हो गया। इसके भी उन्होंने कैसा बनाना है वो भी उन्होंने बताया था। वो महाराष्ट्र में पॉपुलर तो हुआ था ही, लेकिन पूरे देश में ये मालेगाँव काढ़ा बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ था। मेडिसिन के साथ इस लेने से कोविड के पेशेंट वहाँ के बहुत सारे कम कम हो गए ऐसे दिखते हैं। इतना ही नहीं, केरल राज्य में पिनाराई विजयन जो है, वहाँ के चीफ मिनिस्टर हैं। उन्होंने तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है पूरे देश में सबसे ज़्यादा पैसा कोविड पे जिसने स्टेट ने खर्च किया है, वो तो केरला है। क्योंकि 20,000 कोटी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने पूरे देश के लिए किया था, लेकिन अकेले केरल के लिए 20,000 कोटी जितना देश के लिए बजट था, उतना ही बजट सिर्फ केरल के लिए मुख्यमंत्री वहाँ के जो चीफ मिनिस्टर है, पिनाराई विजयन ने खर्च करके। और कोई सी बात देखी जाए तो पहला पेशेंट था कोरोना का, वो केरल ही मिला था। तो उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से केरला में कोविड के लिए या कोरोना को बहुत अच्छी तरह से वहाँ पे हैंडल किया था। इसके साथ झारखंड के जो हेमंत सोरेन हैं, बात मैं इसलिए बताना चाहता हूँ कि वो पहले ऐसे मुख्यमंत्री जिन्होंने बाहर स्टेट के जो अपने लोग थे, जैसे अभी वंदे मातरम जो ऑपरेशन अपना आदरणीय रामनाथन सर जी बहुत अच्छे से हमने समझाया। तो उसी तरह कि बाहर स्टेट में जितने लोग हैं झारखंड के, उनको लाने का काम, अच्छी तरह लाने का काम या फ्री में लाने का काम चीफ मिनिस्टर झारखंड हेमंत सोरेन इन्हें बहुत अच्छी तरह से किया था। वैसे उत्तर प्रदेश में योगी सरकार ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया था। उन्होंने काम ऐसा नहीं किया है कि अपोजिट पार्टी वाले हो, बहन मायावती हो या अदर पार्टीज हो, उन्होंने उनको सपोर्ट करके वहाँ पे यूपी के लोगों को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लाने की कोशिश वहाँ पे की गई थी। अब एक बात ऐसी थी कि प्रशासन के सामने बहुत सारी परेशानी थी। उसमें सबसे परेशानी ये थी कि ये कोरोना है या कोविड है, वो अनजान दुश्मन तो है। अनजान यानी इसे हम बता नहीं सकते कि ये अब कैसा होगा। अब बहुत बार ऐसा बताया जाता है कि कोविड जो तो बहुत पावरफुल था, बीच में फिर लो हो गया, अब तो बहुत लो हो गया है। तो इसे लड़ने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए, इसके बारे में सब हथियार तो पता नहीं थे। तो अपने-अपने तरीके से यहाँ पे उन पे औषधि भी कुछ नहीं थी। तो ये सबसे बड़ी परेशानी तो प्रशासन के सामने परेशानी ऐसी, तो उससे क्या किया जाए? तो ऐसे बहुत सारे पैटर्न का गवर्नमेंट, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट आदेशों का पालन करते-करते उन्हें करना पड़ रहा था। दूसरा ऐसा था कि सबसे बेहतरीन या सबसे डेंजरस जो था तो मीडिया था। मीडिया जो आंकड़े बता रहा था तो सब लोग डर रहे थे और प्रशासन के सामने था कि वह डर कम करना चाहते थे। गवर्नमेंट जो हो, वो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हो या सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हो या लोकल गवर्नमेंट हो, वो लोगों के वक़्त से डर कम करना चाहती थी। लेकिन मीडिया जो है, तो मीडिया लेकिन वो डर खासकर इलेक्ट्रिकल मीडिया डर बढ़ाने का काम चल रहा था। जैसे हमारे दोस्त वो अच्छे बोलते वो बोलते थे, अब जब हम घर में रहते तो कोविड बहुत बड़ी बुरा है, ऐसा चल रहा है ऐसा लगता था। जब हम बाज़ार में जाते थे तो लगता था कि कोविड कहीं पे भी नहीं है। तो मीडिया का भी रोल ऐसा रहा, इसलिए बहुत परेशानी हो रही थी गवर्नमेंट का काम करने में। दूसरी बात ऐसी थी कि किसी में एक धार्मिक मामला निकला था, तबलीगी मामला निकला था और इसे एक समाज के लिए टारगेट बना के कर दिए थे। तो इसलिए समाज की तरफ देखने का नज़रिया बदल गया था। तो एक बहुत ये गलत बात हो रही थी। और इसमें एक और एक बात ये थी कि ज़्यादातर हम अधिकारी देखते हैं, ऑफिसर्स देखते हैं, तो अप डाउन करते हैं, एक शहरों से दूसरे शहरों में। अभी लॉकडाउन होने से परेशानी ऐसी हो गई कि जिनका जो अप डाउन था वो तो रुक गया और फैमिली के साथ भी नहीं थे और उधर भी नहीं थे। ऐसा इस इसमें सिचुएशन में बहुत सारे लोगों की परेशानी, ऑफिसर की परेशानी हो गई और बहुत सारे लोगों की परेशानी इसमें हुई ऐसा हम लगता है। और नए हॉस्पिटल बनाए जा रहे थे लेकिन कोई पुरानी बिल्डिंग ले लिया जाए, नया बनाया जाए, ऐसे उनका एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या अ, गवर्नमेंट के साथ थी। और बाहर देश से आए हुए इंडिया में आए लोग, इतना ही नहीं, शहरों से आए, देहातों में आए लोग, उनका क्या करना चाहिए? उनके हाथ के लिए तो काम नहीं है, उनका रोजी रोटी का सवाल है, तो इनके लिए क्या करना चाहिए? ये प्रशासन के सामने बहुत बड़ी एक समस्या हमें दिखाई दे रही थी। और सबसे खास उनका डर दूर करना बहुत जरूरी था कि इनका जो डेथ रेशो है बहुत कम है। अगर आपके इम्यूनिटी पावर ज्यादा हो तो आप कुछ नहीं हो सकता, ये बचाने की गवर्नमेंट बार बार कोशिश कर रही थी, लेकिन डर का मामला खत्म नहीं हो रहा था। तो कोविड के लिए बहुत ये डेंजरस रहा था। और डॉक्टर और जो अदर सर्वेंट थे, उनकी परेशानी ऐसी थी कि तो कम थे, फिर प्राइवेट डॉक्टर्स के लिए लोगों से, एनजीओ से कह के उनसे भी कुछ लोगों की हेल्प ले गई, लेकिन परेशानी थी। हेलो, तो एक बार देखी गई, ये देश का संकट था, ये पूरे राष्ट्र का संकट था, तो इसीलिए कि सब लोगों ने यहाँ पे हेल्प की। जैसे कि कहे तो हम ऑफिसर और सर्वेंट ने, सबने तो हेल्प की ही, लेकिन जो दान देने वाले लोग थे, बड़े लोग थे, वो चाहते थे कि समाज का अच्छा हो, तो उनके लिए उन्हें बहुत सारी मदद, हमारे सब भाइयों को, जो गरीब भाई थे हमारे, जो परेशान थे, मजलूम थे, उनको देने का काम नहीं किया। बहुत सारी एनजीओ ऐसी थी कि उन्होंने बहुत सारा काम इस हालात में, हालात देखकर बहुत सारा अच्छा काम की कोशिश यहाँ पे हमने देखा था। जो गवर्नमेंट कार्य था या गवर्नमेंट के बहुत सारे प्लानिंग थे, उसके बाद भी कोविड खत्म हो नहीं, तो उनको लोगों को ले जो चाहिए जो बहुत उनके कर्जा होते हैं, फंडामेंटल्स उनके जो नीड्स होती है, वो करने का काम उन्होंने किया था। इतना नहीं, कॉलेज लेवल पे भी बहुत सारा काम हुआ है। जो एनसीसी डिपार्टमेंट है उनसे बारे में होगा, एनएसएस जो ऑफिसर्स थे, उनके स्टूडेंट्स थे, उनसे बारे में बहुत सारा काम करने का काम यहाँ किया गया है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने अपना जितना हो सके उतना जनता को देने का काम हुआ है। हाँ, इसमें हो सकता है कि किसी के साथ बहुत सारा अच्छा हुआ है, किसी के साथ बहुत बुरा हुआ है, लेकिन फिर भी यहाँ पे अच्छा काम इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन किया है, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। यहाँ पे मुझे बोलने का मौका हमारे साथी डॉक्टर रंजित बेहरा सर जी और प्रिंसिपल साहिबा डॉक्टर ज्योत्सना घोष मैम, इन और यहाँ पे ऑर्गेनाइज कमेटी है, ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्रेटरी हमारे शरबत नाथ जी है, इन सबका मैं आभार मानता हूँ और फिर से तहे दिल से शुभेच्छा देता हूँ। थैंक यू। थैंक यू।
Am I audible? Can you see me also?
Yes, you are visible also. Please
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation, Ranjit sir. Thank you for a great talk, Wagmare sir, and Pradhan sir also, and Shiv Bhai before that, everyone. And I won't take time. I won't stand in between the lunch and you. So Ranjit sir, I have sent you a draft PPT. मैं आपको ड्राफ्ट पीपीटी भेजा हूँ, अगर आप उसे प्रेजेंट करा सकते हो तो बढ़िया रहेगा। यहाँ से तो प्रेजेंट की दिक्कत हो रही है, अगर वो हो सकता है तो बढ़िया रहेगा, नहीं तो मैं शुरू करता हूँ। तो मेरे पास वैसे प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं है, मैं देख के बोलना शुरू। अच्छा, आपको मैंने मेल किया है और एचओडी इंजीनियर में मेल किया है, ठीक है। तो मैं शुरू करता हूँ अभी। तो मेरा टॉपिक जो है, मैं ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लूंगा, 10 मिनट्स के अंदर भी बात करना चाहूंगा। सारे लोगों ने डिस्कशन कर लिया है कि कोविड-19 का क्या इम्पैक्ट रहा है भिन्न भिन्न क्षेत्र के ऊपर। how the COVID-19 has been impacting all other sectors. And the major thing is this, that one major sector, which is business and connected to that sector, the environment. तो मैंने जो business and environment दोनों को देखने की कोशिश किया है इस पेपर में. So the paper is work in progress. What I'm trying to highlight is in this, that how COVID-19 has impacted the business, because business is also an entity which exists parallel to kind of government, where government has slowly started what you can say, retreating. Hello. आज्ञा जी. अच्छा. Can I talk to you after 10-15 minutes? I'm in a meeting. Okay. So, and business is definitely an entity which plays an important role in the country, in the economy. तो बिजनेस क्या है ना, उसमें एक तो है कि आप पैंडेमिक के टाइम पे आपका बिजनेस इम्पैक्ट करेगा, तो कैन यू बी ह्यूमन स्टिल दैट बिजनेस इज नॉट मेकिंग प्रॉफिट, स्टिल यू कैन कीप योर पीपल दो एट टाइम्स बाय मिनिमाइजिंग द सैलरी एंड वर्क. पूरा जो निकाल देना, पूरा निकाल एक ट्रेंड हो गया है. और काफी जगह पे उनके अगर शॉप्स हो गया, फैक्ट्रीज हो गए, बंद होना शुरू हो गया, तो लोगों को निकालना भी शुरू किया. तो ये तो एक ऐसा रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि जो आप थोड़ी दिन के लिए आपको लेना चाहिए. यू कैन नॉट विश अवे द रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दैट आई एम बिजनेस, आई एम नॉट मेकिंग प्रॉफिट, सो हम यहाँ कुछ नहीं करेंगे. तो पाकिस्तान सरकार की तरह बिहेव नहीं कर सकते. सरकार ने जैसे उनके रिस्ट्रेंट और कॉन्स्टेंट होते हुए भी उन्होंने बिहेव किया है, तो businesses have to come forward. Point number one. Point number two, some businesses have come forward. They have donated to PM Care. They have actually come back. Yes, you can keep the second slide. Yes. So this is, I have copied from. Second slide, please. This is third. Second slide, please. So businesses have a big role, both includes private corporates and public sector in it. So in this, what role they are required to play in the context of COVID? The point number one is you have to be compassionate. That is one. Second is, at the same time, when you are looking for profit, you have to revisit your method of work. Compassion is first, because you have to protect your people's life and livelihood. That is one requirement of the business. Second requirement of the businesses, you have to revisit, because businesses are going to be disrupted in a big way. Educational technology, or we call it edutech or technology, is going to take over many things. So in this context, businesses which are in the medium and MSME sector, micro, nano, macro, small and medium enterprises, they require a lot of innovation, because big businesses have the wherewithal or capacity to sail through difficult times, but they're also facing tough times. In this context, there is a huge responsibility on the part of the decision-making team at the MSME level, the middle to medium level enterprises. So big businesses have bigger responsibility as well. The first is compassion. Second is innovation. You have to innovate. There is no other way. You have to innovate. And third, you have to actually expand and collaborate. You cannot become one person doing everything. Because if I see the Zomato restaurant report, Zomato has released a restaurant report in August. In the report I'm just reading, it says 83% restaurants are not open for business. 83. 10% have been permanently shut down. 30% additionally out of the 83%, which are not open for business, are going to be shut down as well. So which leaves how much? 43%. 43% restaurants may open when the situation normalizes, maybe in November, December sometime. So in this is just a food restaurant business. I'm talking about MSME only. So and not big business. So this is big responsibility on the part of the government, part of the corporate, part of the social responsibility on that, and part of people who can actually support entrepreneurs and give them money. This has to be absolutely coordinated effort rather than what Prime Minister Modi used to say when he came initially, that everyone functions in the silos. When I came from Gujarat to Delhi, I found everyone functions in the silos. Health department has nothing to do with the education department, right? So education has nothing to do with rural development. Rural development has nothing to do with the cultural department. There are Ajit, there are all different planets to looking at. So this convergence of public policy, convergence of initiatives is required. That is where Modi sir's, Prime Minister Modi's the suggestion that all corporate social responsibility funding needs to identify few priority areas and invest money and material and energy in that. That will be the only way that you can perhaps handle it well. So, what is next? I have copied it from World Economic Forum. Right. The crisis highlights the need for urgent action to cushion the pandemic's health and economic consequences. Health consequences are enormous. You have seen in United States. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Your voice is not coming. Yes, please.
Okay. So the CSR has to be coordinated, and it has to look at few initiatives where we can invest money. And whatever money the businesses cannot be selfish and profit motivated at this.
Again, was problem. Hello. Hello, Ranjit, fix the problem. The audio is not coming. Is it? Just wait for him. There might be some problem.
রণজিৎ বাবু মাড়ি চলো।
Please continue, Bangla bhai. Please continue.
Am I audible now?
Yes, audible. Please continue.
So that is where when the government with limited resources, with limited profit motive, with welfare motive, can go ahead and do many things. The private parties are capable, efficient, technologically savvy. They have bright young people amongst them. Their role is also equally important. So it is the passing the buck normally that people do. That okay, university, academic institution, civil society, journalists, they are absolutely have no money. They have no resources. They live hand to mouth. So the resources people and most efficient people are in the business. So business has to play an important, significant role in the revival of the COVID-19 post-COVID-19 economy. So I'm coming back to immediately for two more minutes. If the slide can be shown, very good. If not, I'm just reading it. So the public sector, because I'm coming back again to government also. So government has a responsibility also in the public sector. So most public sector units operate in sectors that are carbon intensive sectors. All right, and this makes them key contributors to greenhouse gas, which is a key component in the climate change. In the countries that are making the process of decarbonization not only slow but also difficult. Hence, the role of these public sector units in reducing GHG emissions will be of paramount importance to make meaningful progress towards meeting India climate goals. So, when I'm talking about the government, environment, and economy and business, I cannot wish away environment because economy will not be economy if environment is not sustainable. And the business people who are thinking that they can actually gain whatever great mileage they can get out of the COVID-19, and there will be great consumer demand, there will be surge in production, and we will use whatever means we have. No, you have to be environmental friendly. There is no choice. The decade of action demands you to be responsible wherever you are investing 1 rupee or $1. That 1 rupee and $1 should be environmentally sustainable. So government has to take initiative in public sector units which are profitable units, whether it is ONGC or whatever it is, MTPC, whatever the big ones which are actually doing great contribution to economy at one level. And second level is also at the same time, they are also great polluters. So find out how to make them more environment friendly. That will be the bigger challenge. So what will be the 5 things that business today has identified? The next slide. Address the climate risk transition, because there is a high risk if you don't take the transition. And whatever today we have getting the benefit of doubt, saying that in 4 months air quality has become better, water quality has become better, carbon dioxide component has come down, but this is temporary, because attitudinal shift, structural shift, systemic shift, legal shift, and enforcement shift, if these things are not there, this temporary thing will have absolutely zero impact the day industry starts moving and day we start our vehicles on the road. So electric vehicles and solar energy, we have to actually punch above our weight. There is no other way but to go to renewable. There are Germany is coming 50% closer, 50%, which is huge. 50% is in an industrial country or post-industrial society, 50% to renewables. So India is standing at 10%, huge possibility. That is where we have to go. And all our businesses need to transform to wind and to solar and to whatever other means are there, hydro, small hydro, not big ones. Big ones you cannot build, they're not environmentally sustainable. So small hydro projects, and address the climate risk transition, improve the competitiveness and reduce business risks. Developing climate resilient infrastructure, very, very important. Our infrastructure, which is created, the reality, or we call it the reality business or real estate sector. The real estate sector is also part of the large scale pollution that happens and large scale material we use, and it's ancillary sector. So all those contribute to huge pollution and environmental pollution. High potential of contributing to national climate goals only when they actually take that transition. And role of R&D for low carbon transitions. No one is studying. Who is giving money? Who is giving money to do study on whether a solar shifting to solar power-based electricity will have a considerable advantage both in the monetary sense and also in the environmental sense? Who is studying? Who is giving that money? Government is giving. No, government is always cash-strapped. Always this task has to be, it has to come from Infosys, it has to come from Jindal, it has to come from Tata, it has to come from Vedanta, it has to come from the top leading corporate organizations who have CSR, who have thought that only corporate community engagement or health and education is one of their responsibilities, and disaster management contributing to PMK or Chief Minister's Relief Fund is a responsibility. Beyond that, they have to invest in nation building. They give taxes, absolutely. And they give taxes. So point is, government needs to make tax concessions in a way that there are legal mechanisms to develop alternative resources, energy resources, or else we are actually driven towards doom. And you will be surprised to know that many people in my village who have little sense of what is happening around the world, they read newspapers, they have a sense that they are saying, you know what has happened? I said, I don't know. He said, no, there is nothing called COVID-19. I said, what do you think? COVID-19, nothing there. They want to make a vaccine and run money out of it. So it is Chinese and American conspiracy to put the world into halt, and so that they can make $1 trillion business. That is one argument. Second argument, they say, and this argument coincides with the fact that there has been climate crisis around the world, so they are giving the rest of the world rest to the world for some time, and you see with the rest what has happened. The world is actually becoming a better place. So this is the 5 point. Next, the last slide, please. This is not very visible, but I'll read it a little bit. So let me read from the point number 1. No poverty. What is this slide talks about? This is next 2 minutes I'm going to take. So what is this talking about? That what will be the impact of COVID-19 on sustainable development goals? That the action we're talking about 2030. So goal number 1, no poverty. What will the impact? Because no poverty means you have to have poverty eradication schemes, whether it is Narega, whether it is a certain level of support from the government, whether it is Jagannath account. So these dams and benefit of transfer, there is benefit transfer to the account. So these have been certain poverty eradication measures taken by the government in India at the moment. But I am talking about a global scene. So they are saying because of COVID, there will be loss of income, leading vulnerable segments of society and families to fall below poverty line. So that means it is a vicious circle that once you get out of the poverty, whatever the definition so-called poverty is defined as, it's a bad definition of $1 a day, when you have access to basic water, basic electricity, basic education, or roti kapda makan, or roti kapda makan shiksha or swasthya. So whatever is the definition goes on changing. The basic thing is that roti kapda makan shiksha and swasthya. If these 5 things are not basically available to some person, then we put that person into below poverty line. So people who are struggling into the below poverty line and APL, that's a very difficult transitional phase. And there, COVID-19 is going to bring back again to the vicious circle back to poverty. Point number 2, I'll just read this. Point number 2 is zero hunger. Food production and distribution could be disrupted, has been already done. Good health and well-being, devastating effect on health outcomes, and so much of scared because I don't want to get out. Someone will touch me. Something will happen. COVID is not going to die. COVID is becoming a lifeline of our life. So quality education. School of many schools have been closed. Remote learning is less effective and not accessible for many people. For example, if I'm teaching a school child or some child in the district of Kendrapada, near 30 kilometers away from the district of Kendrapada, how many people have Android phone or smartphone who can go for WhatsApp or Google Meet? Maybe 10%. So what about the 90% classes? How do we do? So have we thought about any solution for that? So a solution has been devised by Utkal University professor. I will talk about that later. So fifth, gender equality. Women's economic gains at risk and increased levels of violence against women because of being confined to women. And we are not surprised that people are very happy when they come back to home. That domestic violence and issues of divorce are rising elsewhere in the country and around the world. So women's economic gains at risk and increased levels of violence against women. Women account for majority of health and social care workers who are more exposed to COVID-19. Very, very important point. Sixth, supply disruption and inadequate access to clean water and hinder access to clean hand washing facilities. The most important COVID-19 prevention measures. So in the category, that goal 6 is clean water and sanitation. Goal 7 is affordable and clean energy. Supply and possible shortages are leading to disrupted access to electricity, further weakening the health system response and capacity. कोई सोलर इंस्टॉल करने के लिए नहीं आएगा. 8 number, decent work and economic growth. Economic activities have been suspended completely and some have been partially. Lower income, less work time, unemployment for certain occupations, and unemployment for people like who are casual laborers, seasonal laborers, migrant laborers. Huge unemployment, and government of India has no other way but to take up some employment benefits, unemployment benefits. There is no other way. So sustainable. Then in number 8. Then where is number 9? Right. Number 10. I have to found some of them. Number 10, the most impacted one. And number 10, that will be reduced inequalities. No, inequality will not be reduced. Population living in slums has a higher risk of exposure to COVID-19 due to higher population density and poor sanitation conditions. Then number 13, reduced commitment to climate action. Climate action. but less environmental footprints due to less production and transportation. But climate change, commitment to climate action will be minimized after the post-COVID opening of the market. 16 and 17, 2 months. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Conflicts prevent effective measures for fighting COVID-19. Those in conflict areas are most at risk of suffering devastating loss of COVID-19 because neither the Red Cross can reach nor people can reach. No rescue effort can be taken. When people die, no one is touching them because there is COVID-19. When doctors who are dying, people are not touching them. So this is the situation. We need to understand the impact, how it is going to impact our economy and development. Last one, partnership for the goals. Aggravate backlash against globalization, but also highlight the importance of international cooperation, public health. So, because deglobalization has happened at the same time, while also we're understanding that countries need to collaborate with each other to sell through the post-COVID or the COVID challenges in economy and development. Thank you.
Thank you, organizer, sir. Sir, please send feedback link.
8 ବର୍ଷର ଦବ ଦଉଛ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ ଗ୍ରୁପ କଣ କରୁଛ?
Sir, please send feedback link.